Chapter 481. Upon stepping into the unknown dream realm, Zhongli heard a conversation not far away. I didn't expect that the little boy who was peeping while we were bathing back then has become so powerful now. Even in our White Marsh lineage, there is no method to cultivate to the Mahayana realm, yet you have achieved it. A charming and familiar voice sounded. Zhongli was very familiar with the owner of this voice. White Snow Spirit sister, don't bring that up again. I swear it was an accident at that time. It can be imagined that the owner of this voice must be grinning wryly as he spoke. Zhongli was even more familiar with this owner of the voice. It was the same as his own. Alright, stop teasing him. Come here, let me hold you. Bai Shuilan's sister, you are suffocating me. You little rascal, sister just loves your blushing face. A cold voice sounded, possibly frowning slightly, displeased with Zhongli's appearance. He doesn't just like your chests, he likes that you sisters have the same feelings. You foresee long ago that White Snow Spirit would divide the Kylan blood in her body, transform it into Bai Shuilan, and that's why you tried every means to help White Snow Spirit purify her blood. White Snow Spirit and Bai Shuilan giggled. Yu Yin sister, you're jealous. When Zhongli and Yu Yin were candidates for the Human Emperor, White Snow Spirit was already the White Marsh Emperor, so she could call Yu Yin a sister. Yu Yin's tone didn't change, unsatisfied with the attitude of White Snow Spirit. I'm not talking nonsense, I'm just discussing the cultivation method of dual cultivation with him. That's pure training, it has nothing to do with lust or love. Then what was the point of your dual cultivation with Zhongli just now in this dream? Of course, to increase the degree of integration, and to study which posture can best maximize the method of dual cultivation. Another weak voice was inserted between Yu Yin and the White Snow Spirit. But Yu Yin, you pushed me aside just now, and enjoyed Zhongli all by yourself, I couldn't snatch him from you. Pure heart sister, that's where you're wrong. Now you're provoking trouble for Yu Yin's sister, be careful she'll make things difficult for you when she wakes up. Oh, really? Pure heart saintess was a little scared. Of course not, they're just teasing you. Zhongli embraced Pure heart saintess, gently biting her delicate earlobe, making her too shy to open her eyes. Pure heart sister, you're so timid, how on earth did you cultivate to the body integration realm? A strange voice rang out. Ah meow meow, when you first came out of the GU tribe, your mouth wasn't this poisonous. Hee hee, that must be because I have kissed little Li so many times that I have been changed by him. If it weren't for you and Zhongli being infected by that damn GU fairy with the love GU, how could you become Zhongli's first woman? White Snow Spirit was a little upset. At that time she considered herself the ruler of the kingdom, and was genuinely at the peak of body integration realm. She couldn't possibly lower herself for Zhongli who was only at golden core stage. In fact, White Snow Spirit understood clearly in her heart. She had already started to like Zhongli at that time, but she couldn't bring herself to say it. Claiming that her status was distinguished, saying that their cultivation levels were too different, and looking forward to Zhongli confessing his feelings to her. Just because of the momentary hesitation, Zhongli simply ran to the GU tribe, got infected with the love GU, and caused real marital relations with Meow Meow, the genius girl of the GU tribe. Such a treacherous little bastard. 300 years have passed in a blink, and thinking back now, your unexpected breakthrough to the Mahayana realm really scared us. You deserved a beating. Meow Meow bumped Zhongli with her head. If it wasn't for the sudden feeling of suffocation covering the JoJo, we wouldn't have known that you were breaking through to the Mahayana realm. Isn't it just to give you a surprise? Zhongli scratched his head sheepishly. Yu Yin coldly laughed. The only thing I felt was shock, there was no joy. The words of Yu Yin represented the thoughts of the rest, they all looked hostile towards Zhongli. I really understand my mistake now. To show my sincerity, today I will let you do whatever you want with me. What's the point to take advantage in dreams? Dream pure, look at your good apprentice. As soon as he learns about the dream path, he pulls everyone into the dream. I dare not call Zhong the great genius my pupil. Alchemy, artifact refining, spirit plant, sword Dao, he is proficient in all kinds of celestial arts. I only taught him the basics of the dream realm, and can't count as his master. In fact, Sword Monarch is the real pupil of this kid. Who would have thought that Sword Monarch was still alive in the sword burial ground? Since he revived Sword Monarch's soul and it had nowhere to go, it temporarily resided in his ring. My master taught me a lot of things, which saved me from taking a lot of detours. Otherwise, I couldn't keep up with you and Bai Hong at all. Now you're not just keeping up, you've surpassed us. Even though I don't want to interrupt you, I would like to talk with this Zhongli. Gentlemen should not watch something unseemly, so could you all please put on your clothes? Zhang Li saw that these people in the dream realm did not even wear a piece of clothes, which was a bit awkward. He wanted to wait for them to finish before he came over. He waited and waited, but he didn't see any signs of them ending their activities. Is dual cultivation this interesting? They were all on top of each other. The crowd was shocked, especially the other Zhang Li, who was even more stunned. There was someone who approached silently and he wasn't aware of it at all. GU tribe's young girl Meow Meow screamed. They were all naked now, seen by a stranger. The other women were also looking embarrassed. Yu Yin was the calmest, she frowned slightly, feeling that the stranger's voice sounded somewhat familiar. The other Zhang Li was extremely furious. The dream realm was his secret place with Pure Heart Saintess and the others. How could he let strangers step in? The other Zhang Li decisively took action. After his breakthrough to the Mahayana realm, he swept across the heavenly demons from the outer realms and feared no enemy. He felt that the other party simply used an unknown method to enter, and couldn't possibly be stronger than him. Can you please check before you start fighting? Seeing the other party act rashly, Zhang Li felt helpless. What's the point of fighting? Why can't everyone sit down and have a good talk? How can you look exactly like me? The other Zhang Li was shocked. Could it be a heart demon tricking him? No, the system enables me to avoid heart demons, this can't be a heart devil tribulation. No matter what, let's fight first. Only by winning will I have the right to speak. The other Zhang Li didn't lessen his strength but doubled it instead, turned his hand into a sword, and used the unique techniques of the sword monarch to pierce thousands of methods with one sword. This talent in sword Dao really makes one envious. Zhang Li commented, and stepped forward, breaking the sword Dao's illusion, and smashed a fist in the other party's face. Unfortunately, it doesn't help in fighting. I get it now, you came from the parallel world mentioned by Venerable Sumeru. Another Zhang Li steadied his figure, his wounds rapidly healed, his eyes flashing with intense fury. I have been at the Mahayana realm for 300 years and have never encountered an opponent. It turns out that I am my own opponent. Even if he had guessed the other party's origin, the other Zhang Li still wanted to fight. The other party made him lose face in front of the women he loved. He must gain back his dignity. Chapter 482, Merely Possessing Skills. Zhang Li felt that this battle was completely meaningless. What would it mean if he won? And what if he lost? The other Zhang Li was brimming with a fighting spirit. Ever since he defeated Zhang Yixing in Qingchang, he had never lost a single battle. No matter how difficult the tasks that the system assigned, no matter how formidable the enemies he faced, he was able to complete the tasks smoothly and defeat his enemies. Having never lost a single battle, this was his confidence. The other Zhang Li, during his time in the Sword Tomb, used the system to increase his Sword Dao talents, and was able to grasp 12 types of swordsmanship from the 12 Sword Dao styles. These 12 types of swordsmanship represented the lifelong endeavors of the Sword Sovereign. Later, he even received personal guidance from the Sword Sovereign, leading to a rapid advance in his swordsmanship abilities. As he completed more and more tasks, the points he added to his Sword Dao talents also increased more and more, eventually completely surpassing the Sword Sovereign and Bai Hongtu, the two top figures of the Sword Dao in JoJo, becoming the number one in the Sword Dao. All sword cultivators in the world recognized him, Zhang Li, as their superior. Zhang Li made a magnificent immortal sword appear. The sword was extremely sharp, capable of cutting through space with a gentle swing. This was a reward from the system. In reality, he often used this immortal sword in battle. It was both elegant and lethal. In his dreams, he could only make this immortal sword appear. The Yellow River's water came from the heavens. With a swing of the immortal sword, he showcased a sword Dao that surpassed Bai Hongtu and the Sword Sovereign. The sword Qi was like the waters of the Yellow River, flooding from the sky to the earth. Rushes away, not to return again. The sword Qi converged into a torrent, going straight towards Zhang Li. The other Zhang Li took his opponent seriously. In the past, he had never used this sword move before. Even when facing the heavenly demons from beyond the domain, he did not use it. I told you, this is pointless for the fight. As the other Zhang Li was gathering his Qi to swing the sword, Zhang Li appeared behind him, delivering a kick. This peerless sword move fell on an empty space. Zhang Li measured the immortal sword, gave it a gentle flick, and the immortal sword issued a sound like a phoenix crowing. It then disintegrated into dust due to the high-speed vibration. Do you actually have the gall to use such a weak weapon for battle? You are definitely more robust than this immortal sword. Zhang Li could not comprehend the other Zhang Li's thought process of using the immortal sword in battle. Heaven and earth is a furnace. shouted the other Zhongli angrily. An immortal flame ignited at his forehead and spread across the entire dreamscape. This immortal flame was also a reward from his system. He used this flame to show his divine skills at the alchemy convention. His flame control technique shocked many old masters in the alchemy field, and he even captured the heart of a beautiful female alchemist. His talent in the alchemy Dao surpassed Su Wei of Alchemy Peak in the Red Crow Furnace, reaching the ultimate realm of alchemy where the heaven and earth served as the furnace. Using the heaven and earth as a furnace, he forged his body, taking its strength up to another level. The alchemy Dao could not only be used for making pills, but could also be used to fight enemies. The raging immortal flame felt like a transparent glaze, spreading across the sky. It looked as if a lid of an alchemy furnace had appeared above Zhongli's head and was about to engulf him. Refine, the other Zhongli shouted. This trick was capable of refining the world. According to commentaries of ancient immortal sages, even an immortal being would perish under this move. Refine, start from Qi cultivation all over again for me. Zhongli made a gathering motion with one hand, absorbing the immortal flame that was sprawling across the sky into his palm and extinguished it immediately. Is this a battle or a performance, with such an illusionary effort? Even if the method of alchemy can be used for battle, how can it be compared to the martial arts and body cultivation techniques that are purely for fighting? You can take your time to deal with fancy moves when facing someone weaker than you. But you still fight like this even when facing an opponent whose strength you have not yet gauged. Do you really think I won't be merciless? Zhongli did not want to waste time in a chaotic battle with his other self. He engaged in close combat, delivering heavy blows with every punch. The other Zhongli did not even have the capacity to block. Don't give an indirect punch. Extend your leg, extend your leg. You know my strength surpasses you, yet you dare to fight against my fists. This is the wrong place to try your bravery. You pretend to not know how to use the opponent's force against them, but I don't believe you haven't learned how to deflect punches. Finesse, do you know how to apply finesse? Your battle techniques have to be coherent. It is not about mindlessly copying moves. You need to learn how to dismantle, integrate, and apply those moves. One moment it's your flame controlling skill, another moment it's some battle formation. Can you not combine both? Use the flame to set the battle formation. The same goes for the sword Dao. Don't you know how to use your countless sword chi to form a battle formation, rather than just gathering them all into one stream of sword chi? Where is your battle awareness? You're far inferior to Bai Hongtu and Yu Yin now. Zhongli was referring to Bai Hongtu and Yu Yin in his world. He was still unaware of how Bai Hongtu and Yu Yin in this world performed. Impossible, 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 how can I not defeat you? I also want to ask the same question. Your power is comparable to Chu Di's, but in terms of battle awareness, Chu Di outclasses you. The other Zhongli did not know who Chu Di was. He was currently on the defensive and would like to regain control, but his opponent kept him suppressed. If his opponent was from a parallel world, how could the difference be so huge? He could not understand it. In the Ring universe, he learned martial arts and fought against the 12 kings. In the ancient world, he learned to calculate and helped Yufeng reach the nascent soul stage. In the Lingxi world, he analyzed the demonic race's bloodlines, learned various demonic skills, and stopped a nation-ending beast tide. In the Era world, he learned to use the power of faith and soul, becoming the 8th god. He had also completed all the tasks released by the system, optional tasks, obligatory tasks, and tasks with the recommendation not to give up. He had even completed the side task of gaining source points, and maxed out the attribute points on the system panel. He had also learned all the cultivation techniques in JoJo. He asserted with confidence that he had pushed the system to its limit. Even if he met another version of himself from a parallel world, at most they would just draw. There would not be this kind of total domination. Could it be that the system of the other party was more advanced? Do not be distracted during a battle. Zhong Li's voice sounded like a devil in the ears of the other Zhong Li. It reminded him when he was weak and undergoing the Sword Sovereign's devilish training. Zhong Li had no intention to be polite to the other Zhong Li, and had him on the ropes, hitting him like a punching bag. The battle ended. The other Zhong Li did not think about regaining his honor anymore. It was indeed my fault to disturb your private moment. I did remind you to put on your clothes, and since we do not often meet, why would you think that I saw everything? Be rational, don't get carried away by lust. The other Zhong Li wanted to nod, but when he heard Zhong Li's last statement, he forcibly stopped himself. Zhong Li helplessly said, "All right, these are all up to you. Every parallel world has its way of living. You might not be as fun as Chu Di to beat up, but you don't seem like the type who would kill at a moment's notice." The other Zhongli softly replied, well, I have a pretty good reputation in the world of JoJo. The other Zhongli wasn't lying. Although he couldn't beat Zhongli, he was the strongest in their world. He defended JoJo, fought against the heavenly demons from beyond, and never slaughtered innocents. They can all testify. The other Zhongli pointed at his harem. Zhongli glared. We are all from law school, those people should be disqualified from testifying. Oh, it's been such a long time since I've reviewed, I forgot. Chapter 483. Zhongli and Zhongli finally had the chance to settle down and have a good chat. Have you completed the system tasks and become the human emperor? The other Zhongli scratched his head in embarrassment. Yes, I'm also the human emperor, but I hardly interfere with matters. Currently, I am semi-retired. General Liu is responsible for handling affairs large and small. He refers to me as a leisure person, and I often call myself that. Zhongli and leisure. Zhongli shook his head secretly. Despite not presiding over the imperial palace, as the human emperor, he set an example for all the powerhouses and often sought out unfair situations to rectify. He would consider the root of the issue to solve the problem. As such, General Liu wouldn't refer to him as just a leisure person. If he were to be addressed as a leisure person by General Liu, it would probably mean that he relies solely on martial force to fend off the heavenly demon and has not fulfilled the responsibilities of the human emperor. A group of familiar female cultivators, having dressed, curiously looked at the newly appeared Zhongli. Old Buddha Sumi did not go around preaching about the concept of the parallel world, so only Yu Yin guessed that this new Zhongli came from a parallel world. White Snow Spirit by Xuelin, right. In my world, the White Marsh Emperor has just distinguished his Kylan identity and hasn't even given a name to his avatar yet. The White Snow Spirit of this world completed the purification of the White Marsh blood 500 years earlier. Where exactly do you come from? Bai Xuelin asked. The inherited memories of the White Marsh blood did not mention the concept of a parallel universe. It's a parallel world. My world is almost identical to yours. My world also has 9 continents and the immortal realm, just like yours. The biggest difference between our two parallel worlds is probably him and me. You can consider it to be due to a series of issues such as character and extraordinary encounters, leading to changes in the course of the entire world. As for why he and I have different characters and experiences, well, I guess it's a matter of probability. Some people are calm and peaceful, some are ruthless. Some like being independent, others like depending on external things. It's unpredictable, a person's character is not definite. Zhongli was stating his own conjecture. Pure heart saint woman, Yu Yin, I didn't expect that the ones I am familiar with are so different and all fell for him. Pure heart saint woman was curious. Then what are Yu Yin and I like in your world? You are a little silly, cute, and naive, easily deceived. Yu Yin is cold, hard-mouthed, not good at expressing herself. In truth, she also has a restless heart, it is just that she is good at hiding it. And with Bai Hongtu and I to set off against, she appears calm and composed. Pure heart saint woman had a smile in her eyes. Then my personality seems to be quite similar to the pure heart saint woman in your world. Yu Yin was not pleased with Zhongli's evaluation of her. I am totally different. Whatever I feel, I say. I never speak harshly. It can't be that pure heart saint woman in your world also likes you. Pure heart saint woman found indescribable joy in her heart when she thought of pure heart saint women in countless parallel universes being entwined with Zhongli. Zhongli corrected pure heart saint woman's idea with seriousness. Your logic is flawed. Like your affection for Zhongli and leisure, it can't be inferred that pure heart saint woman in my world would also like me. By this reasoning, wouldn't it mean you, Yu Yin, White Snow Spirit, and others all like me? Pure heart saint woman thought about it and felt that what Zhongli said made a lot of sense. Dream Pure, you actually also like him. Dream Pure's cheeks turned slightly red, and she was embarrassed when this was pointed out. Zhongli felt that he and Zhongli in leisure were quite different. Just by looking at the number of female cultivators in a confirmed relationship, this can be seen. He estimated that it was just a small part. Zhongli suspected that perhaps there were still many female cultivators maintaining an ambiguous relationship with Zhongli in leisure. When I first saw you in your celebrations, I thought that the difference between him and me was the desire, but after the fight, I realized that our major difference was the system. Seeing Zhongli about to say the word system, Zhongli quickly went over to cover Zhongli's mouth. Hey bro, mind if I call you bro? Let's not talk about that here. Zhongli nodded, avoided the crowd of women, and went to another place with Zhongli in leisure. My dear brother, don't you know that you can't talk about the existence of the system to others? I didn't know that. Why can't you speak about it? I once wanted to confess my true feelings to Pure Heart Saint Woman and the others, and tell them about the existence of the system. But the system warned me that if I revealed the secret of the system, my soul would dissipate. Zhongli had not heard the system's warning before, and he found it amusing. Do you think the system is powerful? Powerful, Zhongli candidly answered. Without the system, he wouldn't have reached where he is today. Given that the system is so powerful, why is it afraid of others knowing of its existence? Just like me, unless it's for something, I won't hide my identity. Identity is not something worth hiding. Zhongli did not want to discuss the matter further. Since both of us are Zhongli, why is there such a huge disparity in strength? Because my system activated 500 years later. Zhongli in leisure suddenly rose from his seat. That's impossible. Doesn't it mean that you only got the system 10 years ago? How can you become so powerful in just 10 years? Zhongli's expression remained unchanged as he gently pressed down on Zhongli in leisure's shoulder, making him sit down. It's not that I have become powerful in this decade, but I have always been this powerful. The system is not the only way to become stronger. Zhongli in leisure didn't believe his words, thinking that he was unwilling to reveal his secrets to becoming a powerhouse. Right, revealing one's secrets to becoming stronger would shake the position of the strongest, which was against human nature. He could understand that. After my transmigration, the Zhong family bullied me everywhere. Without the system, I probably would have never been able to turn my situation around in the Zhong family. Wouldn't you leave home? What does the Zhong family have that you still hold dear? Quote. Zhongli didn't understand why Zhongli in leisure was so obstinate about staying with the Zhong family. If the Zhong family is bullying you and you can't fight back, why not just leave the Zhong family? Zhongli in leisure was at a loss for words. It was easier said than done to leave and abandon the Zhong family. Even if the Zhong family bullied him, he had inherited the memories of his predecessors and understood the Zhong family. If he left the Zhong family, wouldn't he be facing an unknown future? Without the system, how would I have been able to enter the academy of the great Zhou dynasty family? No, I remember that the entrance examination for the academy was mostly about cultivating basic theories. Even the basic theories of cultivation can't be learned well, so what's the point of cultivating as an immortal? Does it all depend on the system providing points and pouring wisdom into my mind from above? Casually, Zhongli spoke. Of course, aren't system rewards meant to make cultivation more convenient? Zhongli continued. And also the heavenly spiritual root, it was subtle. The 5 elements spiritual root was displayed externally, and only when it reached nascent soul stage could it be revealed. All thanks to the system, it allowed me to awaken the heavenly spiritual root at the golden core stage. I had a bloody battle with someone at the foundation establishment stage, and I burned my spiritual root, resulting in the premature awakening of the heavenly spiritual root. Zhongli said carelessly, not thinking that the system was that important. What about the infinite Taoist body? The system helped me get the infinite Taoist body at the divinity transformation stage, which kept the spiritual energy storage in my body longer than other human emperor candidates. Zhongli nodded, acknowledging that the infinite Taoist body was of great help to him. I also got the infinite Taoist body during the divinity transformation stage, but through my own efforts. The infinite Taoist body is a kind of postnatal physique, allowing an individual's spiritual energy storage to be several times more than that of the same rank, thereby prolonging the duration of battles. However, once it reaches the Mahayana stage or becomes an immortal, the infinite Taoist body becomes irrelevant. Don't immortals still have a few methods to expand their immortal power storage? Chapter 484. Wait for me to cultivate to the peak of the Mahayana realm before going to the immortal realm. Without the system, how did you manage to defeat all those geniuses, especially Bai Hongtu and Yu Yin? As long as I have hands, it's enough. Zhongli said as a matter of fact. If one becomes the human emperor reliant on the system, then who holds the title of the emperor, you or the system? If one always relies on the system, it would be better to let Bai Hongtu or Yu Yin become the human emperor. Zhongli chose to become the human emperor, not in order to prove how strong he was, but because he believed that he would perform the role better than Bai Hongtu and Yu Yin. You rely too much on the system. Zhongli hammered his point home. Zhongli, the bystander, glared at him in resentment, thinking his conclusion was too arbitrary. I completed all the system tasks. Do you know how difficult those tasks were? Defeating enemies 2 major levels beyond me, competing against sect disciple without any foundation, achieving first place, I made it all happen. Those tasks were accomplished through my own wisdom and effort. How can you say that I'm relying on the system? Zhongli sneered, wisdom and effort. How do you know those weren't pre-calculated by the system? My counterattack system came 500 years late. Its first task was to make me defeat Zhang Yixing. The second task was to make me defeat Yunbo. Even if I had not completed the previous task, the system would release the next one. Do you know what this implies? It implies that all tasks have been preset by the system. Bystander Zhongli felt like he was struck by lightning. Thunder echoed in his mind. He had always thought that he didn't rely too much on the system. Sometimes the system would assign seemingly impossible tasks which he could complete. Naturally, the credit should go to him. But now, everything was said to be within the system's plan. The blow was considerable. Zhongli comforted, "Don't be too disheartened. My system was simply late to activate. If it had been active when I crossed over, I would have made the same choices as you." Really? Bystander Zhongli felt filled with hope again. Just take it as consolation. No need to take it too seriously. With your kind of mouth, how would you ever find a partner? Don't change the topic. Tell me what you did after obtaining the system. I'm a bit interested in that. After crossing over, I was awarded a beginner's gift package by the system, and it was this package that enabled me to defeat Zhang Yixing. Later, I completed various tasks one after another, such as defeating Huayan sect Yunbo, becoming the number 1 in the mysterious secret realm trial. These are too trivial to be mentioned. Oh, by the way, there was a follow-up task in the mysterious secret realm, to resurrect Dream Pure. It was during the process of resurrecting Dream Pure that we developed feelings for each other. Resurrecting Dream Pure is a, not recommended for abandonment, task. Bystander Zhongli felt a little embarrassed. Give me some face, I know what these types of tasks mean. After leaving the mysterious secret realm, I encountered my first special task, Immortal Realms Mystery, which required me to rank first in the examination of the Great Zhou Dynasty family's academy to unlock. What am I detailing all this out to you for? You just said that entering the Great Zhou Dynasty's academy was hardly challenging. Presumably in 500 years, it should be no trouble for you to become the top scorer in the entrance examination. Zhongli responded calmly, "Tell me more about this special task, maybe our ways of completion are not quite the same." An honest Zhongli said, "Immortal Realms Mystery, as the name suggests, is about finding out the reason for the disappearance of the Immortal Realm. It would be more accurate to call it the fear in the heart of the immortal, rather than the Immortal Realms Mystery. I undertook many tasks, such as traveling to the Red Dust Fairyland to find the portrait of the Red Dust Fairy, and learning about the life of the Heavenly Tao. In the end, the Immortal told me the real situation of the Immortal Realm. The Heavenly Demon from outside the realm was fabricated by him. The moment the Heavenly Tao gained consciousness, the Immortals became the Heavenly Demons from outside the realm." So did you complete the task of seeking the fragments of the stairway to immortality? Of course, I put in a lot of effort. I can't even count how many worlds I've crossed, how many beauties I've met before I managed to piece together the complete stairway to immortality. When I completed the 3 special tasks, the Immortal Realms Mystery, seeking the fragments of the stairway to immortality, the road of the human emperor, and reached the peak of the Transcendence Tribulation stage, the system then issued the task of going to the Immortal Realm. You didn't go. Bystander Zhongli scratched his head. Heavenly Tao had gained consciousness, meaning all the inhabitants of the Immortal Realm are enemies. The Heavenly Immortals, the Golden Immortals were rampant, and even though I had the system, it all felt quite unsafe. Therefore, I thought it better to break through to the Mahayana realm before venturing into the Immortal Realm. 300 years ago, I broke through to the Mahayana realm. This time I did not rely on the system. Bystander Zhongli emphasized, his breakthrough to the Mahayana realm was purely due to his efforts. As he refused to go to the Immortal Realm, the system was stalled and did not release any other tasks. Immortal said that after cultivating to the peak of Mahayana, one can confront a Heavenly Immortal 30 times, and that has been my goal. I was thinking of cultivating to the end of Mahayana before going to the Immortal Realm for safety. Zhongli looked odd. There's no end to Mahayana. Did the Immortal only tell you that the Heavenly Demon from the outside realm is fabricated by him, but didn't mention that Mahayana was also a fabrication? Bystander Zhongli looked shocked. What? Mahayana is fabricated? That's impossible. The cultivation novels I read before crossing over all mentioned a realm called Mahayana before Ascension. Zhongli had no choice but to explain to him all that happened 9,000 years ago. Bystander Zhongli felt completely unwell. I knew something was off. After the Red Dust Fairy was resurrected, I sparred with her. I had to suppress my power strenuously to make it a back-and-forth match. I was wondering then, the Red Dust Fairy is a Heavenly Immortal, and as much as I could have advanced in Mahayana, I couldn't possibly have grown stronger than a Heavenly Immortal. So it turns out Mahayana is a non-existent realm. I was worried that the long-stay immortal would find out about the resurrection of the red dust fairy and come for her, so I didn't tell him about it. Zhongli had an idea, as if he realized something. Did you have any feeling when you saw the red dust fairy? How could I not? The red dust fairy is so beautiful that no man could resist. I mean, were you not driven mad by her charm? Speaking of which, it is indeed strange. Even the sect leader of Clearing Desire was disturbed upon seeing the red dust fairy. Yet I was fine. Bystander Zhongli still had something unsaid precisely because he was fine upon seeing the red dust fairy. He later found himself in an intimate relationship with her. Zhongli showed a weird look on his face. There was only one reason to overcome the charm of the red dust fairy, and that was to be as strong as, or stronger than the heavenly Tao. Was this guy as strong as the heavenly Tao? To answer whether this guy was strong, Zhongli's answer would be yes. Bystander Zhongli had an inadequate fighting consciousness and had been spoiled by the system, but his power was on a par with the early emperor. However, after the early emperor broke through to the Mahayana realm, he cultivated for 200 years. Bystander Zhongli, after breaking through to Mahayana, diligently cultivated for 300 years. Their strengths turned out to be on the same level. Zhongli did not know what to say. The power was linked to the realm, indicating that bystander Zhongli's cultivation speed was significantly slower. Chapter 485. What did you do after becoming the human emperor? How many women exactly are you involved with? This question left Zhongli, the freelancer, stumped. He stuttered for a long while and still couldn't figure out the exact count. They are all good girls, I don't want to let them down. I am sure I will make it official with all of them eventually, pledged Zhongli with a sincere face. Zhongli felt an impulse to take this playboy down and give him a beating again. Go into detail about how you met each of these women. I guess it begins with White Snow Spirit, which was my first, not recommended to give up, task given by the system. I thought that I could become the top man in all of JoJo if I complete all tasks, so I planned never to abandon a single one. As Zhongli recounted his tales, Zhongli learned the true meaning of a remarkable encounter. Like using a fascinating artifact refining technique to attract the female genius of artifact refining, using pyrokinesis to catch the attention of the female alchemy genius, attracting talented women using lyrics from his previous life traveling to other worlds, hiding his cultivator identity and using miraculous acts of cultivation to entice women from other worlds. Zhongli would usually abandon these, not recommended to give up, tasks with a single glance. He never expected the system to issue so many of such tasks. Is this really a counterattack system or a matchmaking system? Besides the tasks issued by the system, there were all sorts of coincidences involved as well. For instance, the joyful toxin in female cultivators, freelancer Zhongli would personally cure the toxin after defeating his enemies. Family enforced marriages where a female cultivator swiftly found a man to fend off the match, that man happens to be freelancer Zhongli. When it came to martial arts competitions for marriage proposals, freelancer Zhongli went ahead to participate thinking that it was a regular contest. Only after emerging victorious did he find out the truth. No wonder freelancer Zhongli lost count. Even Zhongli, an onlooker, didn't want to keep counting halfway through. Not only was there a large number of them, but there were also some where it was hard to tell whether it was just a platonic friendship or a romantic involvement. Is this kid human or a bulldozer? When I persisted until the arrival of Commander Lu and the others to complete the final task of the Emperor's Path, the system rewarded me by allowing my breakthrough to the body integration realm, to Transcendence Tribulation stage. Zhongli had a clearer understanding now. On the surface, it appeared that Zhongli could do anything. His innate talent for battle was against the heavens, defeating Yu Yin and Bai Hongtu to become the only candidate for the human emperor. However, all these were results accumulated from previous system missions and system rewards. The system cultivated Zhongli in a targeted manner. For example, Bai Hongtu was proficient in formations and sword Dao. The system gave Zhongli an ability to counter formations and maximized his sword Dao attribute points. Yu Yin was proficient in artistic Dao. The system taught Zhongli to use soul attacks, stopping Yu Yin from demonstrating her greatest advantage. Not to mention the final test of the path of the human emperor, facing the attack of the sect hierarch of Qingtian sect and the ruler of Wuguo, there was no need to understand the true intent of the Transcendence Tribulation stage, or breaking through to the Transcendence Tribulation stage. He just needs to hold on until the arrival of Commander Lu and the others. The system would help him break through to the Transcendence Tribulation stage. Zhongli rarely faced obstacles or desperate situations, and real fights were pitifully few. Although Chudi was a tyrant, his status was genuinely earned. He didn't battle any less than I did. if Chuti were to meet Zhongli, the situation would be one-sided. After I became the emperor, I realized that I had completed my counterattack to become the #1 person in 9 provinces in the true sense. In terms of combat power, if the immortal Chong Kun cannot make a move, I would be the strongest. In terms of prestige, is there any position that could be compared to the prestige of the emperor? In terms of marriage, I have unclear relationships with many beautiful cultivators in the 9 provinces. Suddenly, I felt that being an emperor was quite good. The desire to ascend to immortality faded a lot. After ascending, I have to start over again, become an earth immortal, heavenly immortal, golden immortal, and finally reach the primordial chaos immortal. I'll definitely ascend. I still dream of having infinite longevity like the primordial chaos immortal, enjoying eternal freedom. To be on the safe side, I plan to ascend after reaching the peak of the Mahayana realm, so I can ensure my survival in the immortal realm and also spend more time with my Tao companions. So what have you done after becoming the human emperor? Zhongli replied, of course, resisted the attacks of the heavenly demons. I guess I killed around 4 or 5 heavenly demons. The people I saved from these heavenly demons were extremely happy, giving me a great sense of accomplishment. Zhongli casually asked, resisting the attack of the heavenly demons, not bad, anything else? Zhongli thought for a moment, puzzled, anything else? Isn't that enough? Didn't the previous emperors mainly resist the heavenly demons? I am doing the same as them. Well, if you really want to know what else I did, it just involved settling the inner conflicts of the 9 provinces. This was very easy for me. As long as I glare and emit my aura of the Mahayana stage, the conflicting parties would reconcile on their own. Since you are stronger than me, wouldn't it be cool to intimidate with just a hint of your aura? Zhongli asked with a silly smile. Zhongli didn't answer his question and just continued asking, didn't you consider forming something like a 9 provinces guardian formation, or drafting a map of Jojo? What are these 9 provinces guardian formations? Zhongli didn't have any idea about it. It can keep the heavenly demons at bay for a moment to half an hour when they suddenly attack the 9 provinces. Zhongli was puzzled. Why create it? When the heavenly demons come, I can just kill them, why bother? Haven't you considered that Sky Mechanism Tower monopolizes the map of the 9 provinces? Many cultivators have to pay a heavy price just to buy a map, which severely hinders the exchange between cultivators across regions. I did think about this. We had mobile navigation in our previous world. After I crossed into this world and found that even maps were unaffordable, I planned to create an inexpensive and complete map after I became invincible. However, as I became romantically involved with a core female disciple from Sky Mechanism Tower, it was better not to fall out with Sky Mechanism Tower, so this matter was put to rest. Regarding Spirit Medicine Sect promoting the production of cheap elixirs, how do you treat the Spirit Medicine Sect? Zhongli didn't understand the question. What does how Spirit Medicine Sect think has to do with me? I am not the one who cannot afford elixirs. Each year, Alchemy Peak gifts me many elixirs, which I can't finish using. The extra ones, I distribute among the prefects in the Imperial Palace. Then, how did you deal with the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal that sensed all spiritual treasures in the world? At that time, I thought that it couldn't go on like this, and it would cause great chaos in the world. Stability was the most important thing. So, I made the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal erase the divine sense of spiritual treasures again, of course, excluding immortal artifacts. Did you allow the Fan Heaven Tower to construct spatial passages among the major dynasties? Ah, is there such a method? I never thought about it. Zhongli scratched his head, thinking that the other party's thinking was very active and that he was incomparable. I only let Brahma Heaven Tower bring the women related to me from other worlds to Jojo. Zhongli asked with a sarcastic smile. So, dear comrade Zhongli, what have you achieved after becoming the emperor? Chapter 486, The Idle Person. Hearing the other party jokingly refer to himself as comrade, Zhongli felt a great deal more intimate towards him. Both being Zhongli, irrespective of past grudges, they should definitely be closer to each other. The heavenly demons don't pose a threat, and I'm invincible, so naturally I'm going undercover and pretending. I'm well known, so I have to keep a low profile when I go out. Your situation is nearly the same as mine, isn't it? Zhongli chuckled and asked. Zhongli responded with laugh and not a word. I remember once, I was in a restaurant, and a young girl at the Qi cultivation stage stumbled over to me. Behind her was a group of malevolent cultivators. Without a second thought, I repelled them, saving the girl. Those cultivators threatened me, saying their ancestor would never let me off. Guess what? The so-called revered ancestor they spoke of was just a god transformation stage cultivator. As soon as I revealed my true identity, this ancestor immediately kowtowed and pleaded for mercy from the human emperor. After understanding the situation, I learned that the old creature was lusting after the girl and wanted to abduct her to be one of his many concubines. To protect the girl, I announced that we were in a relationship. Hearing this, the old creature was terrified and fled. Later, this girl and I actually did start a relationship, and no one dared to bother her or her family anymore. Even later, their family became a local aristocratic family, and several god transformation stage cultivators congratulated them. Another time, a small sect colluded with local officials of the Dream River dynasty and started to push me around. Once I revealed my identity as the human emperor, they were all trembling in fear. I slightly punished the small sect and the local officials, which should deter them from causing troubles in the future. Zhang Li's brow slightly furrowed. Are you sure there isn't anyone behind those officials, creating a network of mutual protection? Zhang Li laughed heartily. Ha ha ha, when I first met you, I thought you were a serious person. That unexpected joke really startled me. Of course, there is mutual protection among officials, but there is no need to investigate it. What if we end up destabilizing the whole political system of the Dream River dynasty? Zhang Li had a different view. I don't care what happens to the political system of the Dream River dynasty, but I know that under this mutual protection, only corruption will prosper, and the unfortunate ones will always be the ordinary people and low-level cultivators. Zhang Li shook his head slightly, feeling the other party was too idealistic. This is an unspoken agreement among those in power. There is no need to destroy it. A system that can maintain order for 10,000 years must have a rational element. He only needs to act according to the rules. Why bother creating a new order? It's too much work. He continued, I have encountered several instances of the strong preying on the weak. They thought I was weak, so I just watched the show quietly. When they were ready to make a move, I would release the pressure of Mahayana. I admit it feels great doing this. I have experienced it many times, and I still think it's refreshing. Zhang Li's brow furrowed more intensely. Just like that. You haven't tried to change this phenomenon of the strong bullying the weak. Why not lead by example, reason with the weak, and tell the world through your actions that right and wrong depends on reason, not the size of one's fist? Zhang Li didn't like what Zhang Li said. You're implying that, being a Dacheng period cultivator, an invincible existence, I must lower myself for the weak and reason with them. Then what am I cultivating for? I'm cultivating for the freedom to act as I please, not to restrain myself. The strong preying on the weak and survival of the fittest is the law of nature. Why should I go against the law and act uniquely? When I first came to this world, I also thought about reasoning with people, but I quickly found out that it doesn't work in this world. The fist is the ultimate argument. Once I understood this, I quickly changed myself to adapt to the environment of the Kyushu. Zhang Li stood up, dusted non-existent dust off his knees, and said softly, I have changed Kyushu. The first emperor was changed by Kyushu and you have been changed by the system and Kyushu. Lieutenant Liu was not wrong. You are just an idler, who does nothing except resisting the heavenly demons. Zhang Li then understood why Lieutenant Liu called him an idler. It wasn't a jest, but a statement of fact. Offended, Zhang Li felt the tone of Zhang Li's words was inappropriate, as if indirectly ridiculing him for being idle. That's an ugly way to put it. I did the same job as the previous human emperors, and I even did it better. How could you call me idle? Suddenly, Zhang Li lunged forward, ferociously grabbing the other side's neck, his expression cold, speaking slowly and clearly, then let me tell you what a human emperor should do. Zhang Li was terrified. He struggled, using all his strength, but found he couldn't make Zhang Li's hand loosen even a bit. Underneath Zhang Li's cold gaze, he saw a hidden fury, making him tremble. Sure, you can easily kill heavenly demons, and indeed people you saved will praise you. Right, Zhang Li tried to say something but was interrupted rudely by Zhang Li. But have you ever thought about it? It takes time for you to get there. During that time, how many people will die in the attack of the heavenly demons? You only see survivors thanking you but ignore the miserable deaths. And that's exactly why I set up the Kyushu Guardian Barrier. As for the Kyushu map, you abandoned the task just because you have a questionable relationship with a disciple from the Sky Mechanism Tower. Yes, you are now in the Mahayana stage and don't need a map. But have you ever thought that you couldn't afford a map when you were weak? Do you really want these experiences to repeat in someone else's life? The affordable elixirs of the spirit medicine sect could benefit a large number of mortals and low-level cultivators. You consider this none of your business, believing that some small favors to the human emperor's palace guards are enough. You even wiped out the consciousness of all spiritual treasures of the world. Didn't Bai Hongtu tell you that the consciousness of spiritual treasures can also be beneficial, as it can enhance the fighting power of cultivators? Yet you only think that this would cause great chaos. Is the Brahman Tower a tool for you to have concubines in the 10,000 realms, or is its true function to establish a space channel, promote exchanges between cultivators, and promote exchanges between Kyushu and the 10,000 realms, thereby facilitating progress in the world? Women who are liked by you can easily become aristocratic women, and several god transformation stage cultivators will come to give them blessings. Do you really think they came to congratulate the girl? If Kyushu begins to value being born beautiful over being born male, not appreciating sons but daughters, the root of this issue would inevitably stem from you. Do I need to recite the song of everlasting regret to you again? You're only thinking of yourself, not others. You're not just a Mahayana cultivator. You're also the human emperor. The title of human emperor isn't for you to show off, it represents not only honor, but also responsibility. Zhang Li roared, throwing Zhang Li aside. It had been quite a while since he last felt this angry. Perhaps his demand was unreasonable, and perhaps the other party's choice was more common among people, but Zhang Li just couldn't stand looking at Zhang Li. Chapter 487, Fury at their lack of resistance. After being thrown away, the idle Zhang Li gasped for air, his heart pounding in fear. For an instant, just an instant, he thought he was going to die. Look at yourself now, what have you become? Lazy, incompetent, aimless, and wasting your strength. Besides the system, what else do you have? The system could be placed on anyone, even given to Zhang Yixing, and Zhang Yixing could have reversed his fate to become the human emperor. So, what do you have to be proud of? Everything you have is given by the system. And what about your identity as a transmigrator? What use does it serve? Have you used the knowledge from before your transmigration to change anything in the JoJo world? You are a person, a living individual with independent personality, not a puppet of the system. If the system meant you any harm, how would you resist? Zhang Li was angry but did not argue. Idle Zhang Li retorted, how can the system harbor ill intentions towards me? When I transmigrated here, I was only at the mid-stage of qi cultivation. What value do I have to be exploited by the system? Zhang Li coldly responded, now you do. Idle Zhang Li felt as if he had been struck by lightning. Zhang Li wanted to say something else, but seeing the bewildered look on idle Zhang Li's face, he realized that the latter hadn't realized the problem yet. It was useless to say more. When you transmigrated, you had nothing, and I believe that the system could be excused for that. But what about after you became a Mahayana realm practitioner? What about when you stopped doing the system's tasks? Look at the messy things you have done. You think you have escaped the control of the system, but in reality, your nature has been crippled by the system. Speaking more would be pointless, take care of yourself. Zhang Li did not wish to speak to idle Zhang Li anymore, feeling that it was simply a waste of breath. He watched the pure heart saintess and others, who harbored feelings for idle Zhang Li, and let out a silent sigh. From their conversation, he came to know that after the pure heart saintess's first descent from the mountain, she was captured by the demon cultivators, and idle Zhang Li saved her. This was similar to his own experience, the only difference being that he regarded the pure heart saintess as a regular friend, while idle Zhang Li treated her as a girlfriend. Also, there was Yu Yin. Yu Yin was poisoned by the Heihuan poison during an adventure in a secret realm. Idle Zhang Li detoxified her using his own body, forming a relationship between the two that they could not clearly describe. Yu Yin wanted to keep her distance from idle Zhang Li, but in the system's subsequent missions, especially the special mission, the Path of the Human Emperor, always allowed idle Zhang Li and Yu Yin to meet. After seeing each other too many times, and idle Zhang Li being the first man for Yu Yin, she gradually fell for idle Zhang Li. The process of establishing relationships with other female cultivators was mostly the same. It was unclear how much of this was manipulated by the system and how much was due to idle Zhang Li's fickle heart. As an outsider, Zhang Li felt that even idle Zhang Li couldn't make it clear. The thought that some romantic feelings were calculated by the system made Zhang Li feel uncomfortable. Zhang Li broke the dream realm and returned to JoJo. After Zhang Li left, Yu Yin and the others rushed to check on idle Zhang Li's injuries. Zhang Li's move was too fast, so they had not reacted before Zhang Li had finished attacking idle Zhang Li and left the dream realm. Zhang Li, how are you? The pure heart saintess looked at him heartbrokenly. All the other women had similar feelings, only Yu Yin slightly frowned, and asked, why did he strangle your neck? What did you say? Idol Zhongli looked at the women's worried faces and at Yu Yin's calm expression, mixed with a hint of worry, and felt an urge to reveal the existence of the system. However, as soon as he wanted to speak, he wasn't worried about the system's punishment but about how the women would see him. The meetings with the women were all arranged by the system, which was the basis of their feelings. Would the women feel that they had been deceived and leave him because of this? Idol Zhongli did not dare to think further. He finally started to understand what Zhongli had told him. Everything he had was given by the system. It seemed that he didn't do system tasks anymore and was no longer under the control of the system, but in reality, he would never break free from the shackles of the system. It's nothing, just a small disagreement. You all go back, I want to be alone. Seeing the troubled expression on Idol Zhongli's face, the women did not say anything encouraging but obediently left, returning to reality. Idol Zhongli began to think about how to break free from the constraints of the system. What is this? Idol Zhongli suddenly discovered two massive formations appearing in his mind. Could this be the Jojo World Protection Formation? Then what is the formation built from spirit plants? Idol Zhongli knew that these formations were the things left for him. Without realizing it, he had two formations in his mind, and Idol Zhongli couldn't imagine how powerful they were. Just as Idol Zhongli was pondering life, the dream realm trembled violently, and a figure similar to Zhongli appeared. Unlike Zhongli, this figure was wearing a black robe, his face full of defiance. Where is Emperor Zhongli? I challenge him. The first emperor entered the dream realm again. He believed that getting stronger was not just about stacking power, but also about accumulating battle experience. Speaking of accumulating battle experience, there was no quicker way than fighting against another version of oneself. Since it was in the dream realm, no matter how severe the injuries were, one could not die. The first emperor had already planned, he would lose 100 battles, grow continuously, and ultimately surpass Emperor Zhongli. He wanted to become not only the strongest in their world, but also the strongest in all parallel worlds. You are also Zhongli. The first emperor saw that Idol Zhongli looked lazy and did not seem like a strong man. No, he couldn't think like that. When he first saw Emperor Zhongli, he also thought that the latter was easy to bully, but in the end, he himself was beaten up. Perhaps, this Zhongli was also the same. Whatever, let's fight. The first emperor didn't talk more, choosing to fight first. Why is he so weak? Idol Zhongli suddenly opened his eyes, looking like a drowning man who had been saved, and wore a relieved expression as if he had survived a disaster. He was badly injured. This was the feedback from the dream realm to reality. In the dream realm, he was severely beaten by a Zhongli, who had similar power but far superior combat awareness. This fact made him feel wronged. If he was beaten by Zhongli, that could be justified by the difference in power, but being beaten by the first emperor. How many areas do I need to improve in? Idol Zhongli flew towards Mount Sumeru to ask old Buddha Sumeru. Although old Buddha Sumeru was the sect hierarch of the God-hidden cult, and caused the death of 9 million people in the Emperor of Heaven origin city, Idol Zhongli thought of the fact that old Buddha Sumeru had been much of a help in his growth process. Seen as half a teacher, and had fought back against the heavenly demon many times, his battle merits were outstanding. Zhongli could not bear to kill him. He felt that the merits and demerits were equal, so he spared old Buddha Sumeru and let him continue to be Mount Sumeru's lord, but he ordered him not to reveal anything about the God-hidden cult. As for the other members of the God-hidden cult, they were all uprooted by Idol Zhongli. Not one was left. Old Buddha, what is the deal with these parallel worlds? Chapter 488. The source lies with me. Zhongli woke up leisurely, stretching lazily, and found Dream Pure smiling softly at him. Recently, Dream Pure had been a guest elder at the Food Color Dream sect. Did the Emperor sleep well? What kind of dream did you have? Yawning, Zhongli replied. I dreamt that many beautiful women admired another version of me, including you. It's unexpected that the Emperor has such desires. Wait, did you meet Emperor Chu in your dream? Dream Pure assumed that Zhongli yearned for a harem in his heart, but rationality told her this was quite illogical. No, it was a different person this time. Zhongli briefly described his encounter with the other Zhongli. Dream Pure analyzed. In that case, when you and the other person enter the dream at the same time, you can break the boundaries of the parallel world and meet within the dream. Zhongli added. Maybe there is another prerequisite, that both of us are at the Mahayana realm. So you found me because you encountered Old Bai? Dream Pure nodded. Somebody said they were unsatisfied with the dreams being constructed and needed my personal intervention. When I took a look, I realized that it was Sect Master Bai Hongtu. And that's how I found out that both you and Pure Heart, the Holy Maiden, also came to Food Color Dream Sect. Where are the Holy Maiden and Old Bai? The Holy Maiden said she was very satisfied and returned to Red Dust Pure Land first. Sect Master Bai Hongtu is still immersed in the dream I wove for him. Let's go and check it out. Standing beside Bai Hongtu, who was in a deep sleep, Zhongli asked, "What's this guy dreaming about?" He is dreaming about becoming the 72nd Human Emperor and selecting candidates for the Human Emperor. That seems quite normal. Zhongli was pleasantly surprised. You are among the candidates for the Human Emperor in his dream. Damn, change the content of the dream. No problem. Dream Pure was happy to help. After the dream was altered, Bai Hongtu's tranquil expression gradually twisted, he was sweating profusely and suddenly sat up cursing. Why am I, this emperor, being pinned down and beaten by Zhongli, the candidate for Human Emperor in my dream? Zhongli whispered, because I am right next to you. Hearing Zhongli speak, Bai Hongtu turned his head in surprise, looking at Zhongli with his eyes wide open. He was so scared that he clung to his blanket, backed up against the wall, trembling. This is bad. Zhongli knows that I'm keen on defeating him. Wait, did he know all along? Bai Hongtu felt a brief moment of panic, then realized that he had panicked for nothing. What do the Emperor and Bai Sect Master need from me? Dream Pure didn't think she was that important to warrant being sought after by both of them. The thing is, some dream path cultivators are offering custom dreams that are about love, with me being the male lead and the female lead being undetermined. I want to find a way to monitor these dreams and filter out those who use me in lustful dreams. Dream Pure was a little embarrassed. You mean this? This might also be something I started. What? Dream Pure explained. As you know, to cultivate the dream path, one must increase the authenticity of the dream realm. I can easily create any ordinary scene, it's not challenging. Even creating the entire 9 provinces continent in the dream is just a matter of spending some time, it's not difficult. When I was contemplating how to advance to the next stage of dream path cultivation, it occurred to me, why not create you in the dream? Especially after witnessing your battle with Emperor Chu in the dream realm, I realized that your strength had no boundaries. The most unimaginable thing is the best method to practice the dream path. By imagining you in the dream realm, my dream path cultivation has advanced to the next level. Coincidentally, I wanted to stay in Shan'an City for a while, so I became a guest elder of the Food Color Dream Sect. The people from this sect asked me for guidance on how to cultivate the dream path, so I demonstrated to them the method of creating you in the dream realm. In the dream, to show how authentic you are in my creation, I had you pin down the hands of the sect master of Food Color Dream Sect and push her against the wall. I guess because of your close distance, the sect master of Food Color Dream Sect could feel your breath, her face turned red and her body went limp. That's enough, you don't have to describe that process in too much detail. Zhongli hurriedly interrupted. Dream Pure skipped over the rest regretfully and directly stated the conclusion. It just so happened that the Food Color Dream Sect was considering a new way to make money at the time. They got inspiration and a business opportunity from me, using you as love dream material to start making money. After the other dream path cultivators learned about this, they followed suit and started doing the same. I guess every dream path cultivator has made money off you. After all, your market is huge. Even a brush you've used can sell for a sky-high price, not to mention a dream featuring you. Many female cultivators want to have that kind of dream, resulting in the dream path cultivators not being able to meet the demand. Finding this disturbing, Zhongli realized this gray market was even more exaggerated than he had imagined. Is there any way to stop this? After thinking for a moment, Dream Pure felt she was responsible for this and should help Zhongli solve the problem. Yes, there is a way. I can use Dream Path to filter out all the dreams that target you for love dreams. However, I need a huge array that covers the entire 9 provinces. Zhongli looked at Bai Hongtu for his opinion. Bai Hongtu nodded. That won't be a problem. She can use the 9 provinces spirit plant array to practice Dream Path. The 9 provinces spirit plant array is very malleable. Not only can it be used to concentrate power and withstand heavenly demons, but with some slight modifications, it can also be used to filter dreams like Dream Pure wants. In addition to that, it can also have more functions such as monitoring the distribution of spiritual energy, population density and the concentration of cultivators. That should be fine then. Dream Pure was incredibly confident in her dream path. This day was a day of agony for the countless female cultivators. They had lost the chance to enjoy Zhongli alone, many were even kicked out of their sweet dreams by Dream Pure. The female cultivators wanted to confront the Dream Path cultivators, but upon comparing their experiences, they realized that it was not a service problem with the Dream Path cultivators but that all love dreams involving Zhongli had been banned. Damn, I relied on this love dream every night, what am I going to do now? Me too, practicing during the day is so tough, I should be allowed to enjoy myself at night. Have you guys noticed? Not all dreams involving Emperor Zhong are banned, dreams where he is dressed are still allowed. What's the point of a dream where he is dressed? We can have dreams where we're in a romantic relationship with Emperor Zhong. That's a good idea. Just as he was leaving the food color dream sect, the Emperor's seal on Zhongli's forehead began to flicker. Something happened. Bai Hongtu was not familiar with the Emperor's seal, he had only had the Emperor candidate seal before. Yes, both Luo Ying and Luo Zhu have reached the nascent soul stage. I'm rather fond of these siblings. Having met the minimum cultivation requirement for Emperor candidates, Luo Ying and Luo Zhu became potential candidates for the position of the human Emperor. That's good, then let's proceed with selecting the human Emperor candidate. To prove the fairness of the selection for the human Emperor candidates, Zhongli and Bai Hongtu sought out Yu Yin. In front of both of them, they randomly selected a topic from those provided by Commander Lu. Chapter 489. Golden Light Spell. Thanks to the Alliance leader gifted by Undying Reincarnation, a dear reader. It's quite a coincidence that this topic came up during the Spirit Chef Sex competition. Zhongli took a glance at the trial topic, feeling quite lucky. Commander Lu didn't know that Zhongli would also participate in the Human Emperor candidacy. His assigned trials were not randomly picked by Zhongli, but were chosen from a list he provided. Some of the trials would become quite challenging if their corresponding time had passed. All the human emperor candidates from around the world were summoned by Zhongli to the consciousness space. 2 new faces were added to the group, Luo Ying and Luo Zhu. Zhongli nonchalantly greeted everyone, without any pretexts. Hello everyone, we meet again. Seeing me, you're probably aware of what's to be done. Yes, it's time for another human emperor candidacy test. After the last fishing competition ended, I left you a task, to guess which 2 human emperor candidates caught the most fish. Does anyone have a conclusion? Zhongli gave a smile and scanned the bunch of young and inexperienced youths. They all shook their heads in confusion. They had thought for a long time but couldn't figure out who it could be. Seeing this, Zhongli gently shook his head, pretending to be disappointed in everyone. Lucky no one recognized me, so I can continue pretending to be a human emperor candidate. This test doesn't involve cultivation. People often say, food is the god of the people. For any sentient beings, food is essential. Even though cultivators won't need to eat at a certain stage in their cultivation, is food just for filling bellies? Of course not. Eating is an enjoyment, a form of entertainment, a method of cultivating. Eating delicious food can make one happy, while consuming food full of spiritual energy can enhance one's cultivation. Because of this, spirit chefs were born. The Spirit Chef sect is currently holding a competition that any cultivator can participate in. For this human emperor candidate trial, you must win this competition. Considering the sensitivity of the candidates' identities, it is best to maintain anonymity for the competition to avoid unnecessary commotion. I will bring you near the Spirit Chef sect, and you can proceed from there. With that, Zhongli sent everyone away. 7 killings was conveniently just around the Spirit Chef sect, so Zhongli did not need to transport him. He informed the little princess of the mermaid tribe and the little princess of the South Zhao dragon tribe about the human emperor candidate trial. Both ladies seemed a bit regretful. What a shame that we are not among the candidates for the human emperor, otherwise, with both of our culinary skills, we could easily win. On hearing this, 7 killings shivered, not wanting to recall the food prepared by the 2 ladies during an outdoor camping trip. On their journey, 7 killings was adamant about not spending the night outdoors. He always insisted on finding an inn to stay, not for a place to rest but to find somewhere to eat. Do any of us know how to cook? Yu Yin looked at Bai Hongtu and Zhongli, thinking in her heart that she didn't know how to cook and had not seen either of these 2 cooking either. Yu Yin has only prepared simple dishes like salt-roasted rabbit. While she knew the theories behind complex dishes, she had never attempted them. Yu Yin wasn't really interested in food. As long as it was edible, it was sufficient for her. After starting her fasting phase, unless she was dining with Zhongli or Bai Hongtu, she hadn't eaten any meals. Yu Yin had read books about spirit chefs. The novel was about a Mahayana realm cultivator who was a hidden spirit chef. His culinary skills were superb. Even without using spices, he could make intoxicating dishes just by controlling the heat. He met a female foodie in the forest and won her heart with his barbecuing skills. At the end of the novel, the heroine died. The Mahayana realm spirit chef, disheartened, ascended to the immortal realm. There, he found out that the female foodie was actually a test body of a food fairy and that she hadn't actually died. Instead, she had returned to the immortal realm, waiting for the Mahayana realm spirit chef's arrival. The couple lived a happy, joyful life in the immortal realm and even had 3 children. After finishing reading, Yu Yin rubbed her forehead, feeling as if she had just wasted a whole day. She couldn't make sense of the story. I can eat, Bai Hongtu spoke truthfully. He hadn't dealt with cooking before. Zhang Li was no better than these two. Commander Lu's test topic was chosen brilliantly. It perfectly targeted the 3's blind spot. They all started from the same line. Yu Yin felt that she might have a chance to surpass Zhang Li this time. Zhang Li smiled indifferently. Are you suggesting that just because one can't cook, they can't participate in the spirit chef competition? Zhang Li took out his Grand Master of Alchemy certificate. Look, I came in first place in the alchemy conference, even Su Wei was ranked behind me. Yu Yin felt that the alchemy conference was a deep cool. She had seen Zhang Li's alchemy skills. When they were candidates for human emperor, the old emperor had set a task for them to execute a certain demon cultivator. While the 3 of them were battling the demon cultivator to the point of exhaustion, Zhang Li took out an explosive blood elixir, which could draw forth potential and increase strength by 50% in a short time. Just as Zhang Li was about to take this elixir, victory was sure to be theirs. Unexpectedly, the demon cultivator used the empty hand technique to steal the explosive blood elixir and swallowed it. Just when the 3 were despairing, the demon cultivator's strength unreasonably dropped to just half of his original. The 3 of them saw this and collectively attacked, slaughtering the demon cultivator. Afterwards, when Yu Yin asked about the explosive blood elixir, Zhang Li told her that it was his own concoction. Even though he followed the elixir composition step by step, something went wrong and the elixir turned out to have the reverse effect. Not only did it draw forth potential, it made strength regress. Since then, every time Zhang Li was refining elixirs, Yu Yin always walked away. When the 3 of them arrived at the spirit chef sect, they found the place teeming with people. There were many cultivators carrying chef knives going to and fro. The huge number of spirit chefs was enough to overturn most people's perception. These were the renowned spirit chef masters from across the 9 provinces. In the impression of most people, spirit chefs were rare. It is unusual to even encounter a real spirit chef. This impression is not wrong, it's just that the number of spirit chefs is small in comparison to the total number of cultivators. Now that the spirit chef sect is holding a convention that attracts spirit chefs from all places, naturally it would seem like there were a lot. I heard that some accomplished chefs emit golden light as they lift the lid off their dishes. Yu Yin had heard some rumors. Since the Tianyuan Emperor dynasty didn't even have an imperial kitchen, she had not had much contact with spirit chefs. Yes, that's the so-called golden light mantra, passed down among the spirit chefs. Before placing the lid, you silently recite the golden light mantra to the food, then it will shine brightly. Zhang Li had eaten glowing sugar-coated hawthorns before. What's its use? It's impressive. Why do I remember that when I was young, spirit chefs didn't have this skill? Bai Hongtu, being an original member of Dao sect, had attended many banquets in his childhood and had seen spirit chefs cook but never encountered such a situation. Zhang Li said lightly, that's because I wrote the golden light mantra. Quote. While the 3 were chatting leisurely, Zhang Li noticed all the human emperor candidates, with their identities concealed, had arrived and completed their registration. Chapter 490, another work of Zhang Li. At this moment, the spirit chef sect master stood passionately on the stage, giving the opening address, while Zhang Li said to the 2 below. It's the golden light spell that the master of spirit chef sect asked me to write. Why are you looking at me like that? Don't tell me you think I was idle and bored so I volunteered to write it for them. I'm not that kind of boring person. Look, check it out, the must-have classic cultivation technique for foodies. Only 5 lower-grade spirit stones needed, just 5. A booming call from a seller not far away made it hard for people not to notice. Bai Hongtu was naturally drawn over. What's they are selling there? This is the cultivation manual that every gastronome must have, easy dining cultivation. It's simple to learn, easy to master, we guarantee you can learn it. Gathered at the Spirit Chef Sect's competition, there are not only spirit chefs but also food-loving guests. The competition often presents some jaw-dropping delicacies. So, the foodies come. Bai Hongtu was interested, I'll take one. Add 2 more lower grade spirit stones and I'll give you a tutorial. No need, Bai Hongtu waved. How hard could a cultivation manual cost 5 low grade spirit stones be? Why are you standing so far away? Yu Yin looked at Zhongli in confusion, wondering why he's standing even farther back than her. Zhongli didn't reply. Bai Hongtu quickly cultivated with this manual. This manual is ingenious. The amount of spiritual energy and skills required is minimal, even someone in the 3rd layer of Qi cultivation can learn this. From the perspective of my expertise, I can't even find ways to improve it. After cultivation, you can automatically separate fish flesh from fish bones, crab meat from crab shells, and chicken meat from chicken bones. Let me see who's the author. Somebody called Zhong. Bai Hongtu looked towards Zhongli. Yu Yin looked towards Zhongli. Zhongli turned his head away. Did you write this cultivation method? Yu Yin hesitated. Ahem, as the human emperor, I have a responsibility to empathize with the suffering of the people and help them find better ways to live, hence why I wrote this manual. So you admit you wrote it? You should focus on the main point. The main point is that you wrote this manual. Quote. Now can the participating contestants please come to the designated spot as the competition will begin shortly. The Spirit Chef Sect Master's words shifted the attention of the 3. This competition will be based on free grouping. You can form a group of 1, 2, or 3. The competitors can choose on their own. Now we start with the first question. The primary function of food is to fill the stomach. Currently, our Spirit Chef Sect has over 1,000 mortals farming in the fields. In an hour and a half, they will gather here. The task for the competitors is to make food that can satisfy these mortals. The ingredients you use must not exceed the scope provided by the sect. Food prepared by the Spirit Chef Sect was piled up like a small mountain. If it's just filling up, then it's not challenging. Even if one is not a spirit chef, one can complete the competition. Should we team up? Bai Hongtu and Zhongli asked Yu Yin. It was obvious for the 2 of them to team up. No need, Yu Yin declined. If she teamed with these 2, and they won at the end, would it be her win, or would it be their team's win? Yu Yin aimed at surpassing Zhongli. Feeding 1,000 people, the most crucial part of this competition is volume. Good taste is secondary. After seriously analyzing the situation for a while, Yu Yin switched to Zhongli and Bai Hongtu's mindset and continued to analyze. The best meal will always be one made from home. Are we supposed to go and find their family members to cook? That's unrealistic. If you give money for eating, and say, satisfying, once, then you give 1 spirit stone each time. This should violate the competition rules. What if all the ingredients are used up, and the other competitors cannot compete? This does fit both of their styles. Yu Yin turned to look at the 2 of them, who were cooking, and found they had no such intention. Brother, cooking is your forte. In terms of cultivation talent, Luo Zhu was superior to her brother Luo Ying, but when it comes to cooking, it can be quite challenging for Luo Zhu. Luo Ying had survived the apocalypse for 10 years and had plenty of survival skills, knowing how to make the most out of resources. I think there are 3 key points. Firstly, the food's taste must be heavy, like adding a lot of salt. Secondly, it needs to cure hunger, allowing them to have the energy to do afternoon farm work. Lastly, it should be cheap. Not only should it satisfy them this time, but it also needs to be affordable and repetitive. They can prepare the meal at home and bring it to the farm next time. Luo Zhu nodded frequently. She hadn't considered as thoroughly as her brother had. Can we form a group of 3? The princesses of the merfolk and the South Zhao Dragon tribe brightened up at the news and contemplated whether to sign up last minute. Fu Gui, allow us to participate, we guarantee to make you the champion. 7 Kill Taoist hurriedly formed a team with Qin Luan and Yuan Wuxing. He didn't have the heart to allow the hard-working mortals to suffer from their cooking. Why did you come? Qin Luan was puzzled. He didn't expect 7 Kill Taoist to voluntarily help him. Don't ask too much. I'll take care of cutting the vegetables, you just say yes or no. Qin Luan naturally agreed. When it comes to chopping vegetables, it would be hard to find a rival against a sword cultivator. Master, how should we do it? Qin Luan knew that Yuan Wuxing had more experience in this field. On the surface, this challenge seems to be about how to cook communal food, but don't forget that this is also a test for the candidates of the Human Emperor. The Human Emperor set this challenge for a reason. Think from another perspective, to satisfy the mortals, it's not just about making them full, anyone can do that. To stand out, we need to make the food taste good so that they'll want to eat it again next time. To satisfy mortals, the most important thing is to ensure there's no poison in the food, right? Yu Feng thought from another perspective. He had experienced being poisoned to death several times, so for him, any food without poison would satisfy him. Sha Chao and Xiao Qing looked at each other helplessly. Sha Chao's most vivid memory of a meal was a sticky substance mixed with various treasures from heaven and earth by Zhang Li. Eating that thing was a miracle itself. The legacy of dragon bloodline only has recipes about seafood. After some thought, Sha Chao said, let's use seafood to cook. We are 3,000 miles from the East Sea here. Mortal people rarely eat seafood. Ji Kong Kong was considering whether to use the reversible pupils to see the results of the competition. Uncle Zhang seemed to have forgotten to forbid using the reversible pupils. Did he forget, or is he testing her self-control? Wu Ji felt that this competition was too difficult. Being a monk, he could only cook vegetarian food, and how could that satisfy common people? Cooking. Can I ask nearby restaurants to cook and bring it over? Yu Yushan, who has hosted a live broadcast in Mingzhong World for a while, eats takeout most of the time. She thinks that was convenient. Cooking. Well, that's easy, it's my specialty. Li Nianer is good at cooking. Chapter 491, Extremely Satisfied. As the competition is nearing its end, let's see how our contestants are doing. The sect master of the spirit chef sect glanced around the various stoves. Chef Ma, you are an experienced spirit chef, what are you preparing this time? Dragon and Phoenix bringing auspiciousness. As a spirit chef in the divinity transformation stage, Chef Ma excelled in extraordinary culinary skills, making him one of the very top-ranked chefs in the world of spirit chefs. Chef Ma unlatched the pot lid, and a golden light surged up to the sky. In any other place, this sight might make people exclaim, an extraordinary event is taking place, a rare and precious artifact must be in the making. But in this competition, Chef Ma's golden light was merely one of the spectacular radiation of gold that filled the scene. The golden light faded, revealing Chef Ma's masterpiece. Using a large amount of spirit rice for the bodies of the dragon and the phoenix, various precious ingredients like 8 treasure chicken, cotton shells, and tree pigs were used for the dragon scales and phoenix feathers. Considering the income of ordinary people, they could never afford such exquisite ingredients in their lifetime. They will definitely be satisfied once they taste it. The sect master of the spirit chef sect gave a few flattering comments before moving on to the next contestant. Chef Ma quietly recited the golden light mantra, covered back the pot. This way, golden light would surge again when the cover would be lifted next. What are you preparing? Steamed buns. Yu Yin uncovered to reveal a giant bun. She was not talented in cooking, and making buns, one by one, was too troublesome. Considering her efficiency, she probably wouldn't be done by the end of the competition. So, she decided to just make one large bun, easing her efforts and also ensuring that the mortals could eat their fill. Several pigs, cows, and sheep were included inside the bun. Being adept at controlling celestial flames, Yu Yin could effortlessly cook the bun evenly throughout. This meat bun was not considered costly for ordinary people. For example, the fifth elder of the body incorporating sect, Pig King, had mastered 30% of the pig farmers and established a systematic pig farming industrial chain, lowering the cost of pig farming. As a powerful figure in the body integration realm, he had no interest in earning money from ordinary people. This had resulted in even ordinary people being able to afford meat. The same situation applied to cattle and sheep. In the 9 states, cattle were not used for plowing fields as common cattle were even weaker than humans. Therefore, cattle were raised for the purpose of being eaten. These pigs, cows, and sheep were ordinary livestock with traces of spiritual energy, and ordinary people could still not afford livestock with a high spiritual energy content. What are you two making? Stew and manto, steamed buns. The sect master of the spirit chef sect took a small spoonful of soup and nodded in approval. He found that the dishes prepared by the siblings were a bit saltier than average, but just right for those who've just finished farm work. Luo Ying, who lived to the end of the world for a decade, often cooked various ingredients together to make a mixed stew. What are you three preparing? The sect master of the spirit chef sect noticed that Qin Luan and Kikil Taosu were glaring at each other as if they were arch-enemies. Yuan Wuxing was used to their relationship. It's nothing, they're just arguing about whether sweet or savory zongzi tastes better. We're making zongzi. Considering that zongzi has a simple taste, we made some innovations. Such as, for example, this batch contains tomato and egg filling, this one contains braised meat with dried green beans, and this one contains deep-fried deboned chicken leg. We also made a veggie soup to quench thirst and cut greasiness. So is your zongzi sweet or savory? Yuan Wuxing pointed to 2 plates next to him. One plate has white sugar, and the other has bean paste. People can choose whatever taste they want. Kikil Taosu was responsible for chopping vegetables and meat, Qin Luan was responsible for making zongzi, and the rest of the work from creativity to veggie soup was taken care of by Yuan Wuxing. The sect master of the spirit chef sect nodded slightly, believing that this group was doing well. The sect master of the spirit chef sect then moved on to Sha Chao and Xiao Qing. Sha Chao took the initiative to introduce, "This is seafood claypot rice, prepared in the morning and put into a wooden barrel, it will still be warm by noon." "What are you making?" The sect master of the spirit chef sect found something unusual about what Yu Yushan was making. Adding a suitable amount of salt and alkali water to the dough, shaping the noodles into long strips, then steaming the dough cakes, and finally frying them in oil. It's eaten often in the Mingjiang world, it's called instant noodles. For Yu Yushan, apart from takeaway, instant noodles were her most frequent meal. The mortals were capable of using easy spells, like the gathering water technique and the fire controlling technique, so boiling water for instant noodles was not difficult. Just as the sect master of the spirit chef sect was about to comment, he saw a soft yet eye-catching golden light coming from a not too distant spot. The people who were bathed in the golden light were gradually recovering their strength. The sect master was greatly taken aback. Even after mastering the golden light mantra, he couldn't achieve this effect. "Junior monk, what is Amitabha? This is a vegetarian dish. How did the golden light come about?" Wu Ji shook his head. "When I was preparing the food, I simply recited the Buddhist scriptures. When I came back to my senses, the vegetarian dish was uncontrollably emanating golden light." The sect master of the spirit chef sect looked up at the Buddha-shaped golden light, wondering how well this young monk was versed in Buddhist law. Finding that time was nearly up and he had spoken to all the representative contestants once, the sect master of the spirit chef sect was ready to call time and summon the mortals. "Why is there no one at this stove and no food prepared?" The sect master of the spirit chef sect was confused looking at the position of Zhang Li and Bai Hongtu. He remembered that there were two people there at the beginning of the competition. To reply to the sect master, after these two prepared their food, they took it away with a storage ring. "Why didn't you stop them?" "At first, I intended to. However, they said that the rules didn't prohibit them from leaving. So they weren't violating the competition rules. I thought their explanation was reasonable, and I didn't stop them." "What are those two up to?" With a slight trace of doubt, the sect master of the spirit chef sect flew towards the fields 2 miles away. The spirit chef sect's farmland was extremely vast. On average, each person was responsible for nearly 10 acres. Since all of the mortals were at the 3rd level of qi cultivation, they were capable of farming these 10 acres. When the sect master of the spirit chef sect arrived at the field, he found that more than 1,000 mortals had almost finished eating. Zhang Li and Bai Hongtu were loudly shouting, "Everyone, eat as much as you like. There's plenty of food, it's free. This is the welfare from the spirit chef sect. What are you two up to?" the sect master of the spirit chef sect asked with a frown. Both of them explained, "The mortals are tired and hungry after finishing their farm work. They still have to rush to the venue for the meal. We couldn't bear this, so we brought the food over. Look, the mortals are extremely satisfied with the food." The two pointed at the happily eating mortals with oily faces. A tic developed at the sect master of the spirit chef sect's mouth corner. If the ordinary people were already full, no matter how delicious the dishes of other contestants and how good the taste was, the ordinary people wouldn't be able to appreciate it. What's there left to compare now? Not to mention he had overlooked this matter, the mortals were tired and hungry after working and he was still considering whetting their appetites and bringing them over, neglecting the issue of their traveling back and forth. Chapter 492. What low-level cultivators eat in the wild. With no suspense, the two of them won the first round of the competition through their head start. Yu Yin, after finding out how they won, felt that she had grasped a third of Zhang Li and Bai Hongtu's essence. She thought it was due to them using up all the ingredients so that the other contestants had none left. The reality, however, was that they had fed the mortals earlier, leaving no room for the other contestants. This strategy was quickly learned. The human emperor candidates, upon learning that Zhang Li and Bai Hongtu had truly put themselves in others' shoes, began to reflect on why they themselves had not thought of this. They certainly did tackle problems from different perspectives, but it was far from thorough. In reality, both Yu Yin and Bai Hongtu, who had been spoiled since birth, never considered the round-trip issue. Only Zhang Li, who had worked his way up from the bottom and seen the struggles of many people, knew what they needed most. Having meals as early as possible to not delay the midday rest, ensuring energy for work in the afternoon are the most crucial things. Congratulations to Team Feng Li for being the first round winners, the second round begins now. Yu Yin did not need to guess to know that Zhongli had changed his surname again. It is known to all that low-ranking cultivators cannot practice fasting. They can't rely entirely on nature's spiritual energy for energy and have to eat. However, low-ranking cultivators often adventure in the wild, either for self-improvement or to search for heavenly treasures. In such situations, food supplies aren't guaranteed. Upon listening to the announcement, Chi Shaker nodded approvingly. The sect master of the Spirit Chef sect didn't notice Chi Shaker's reaction and continued. Therefore, the second round requires the contestants to make food that can easily be eaten by low-ranking cultivators in the wild. The one who gets the most positive feedback from low-ranking cultivators is the winner. Upon hearing the topic, Zhongli and Bai Hongtu looked at each other, understanding they were both on the same wavelength and began to take action immediately. With such a topic, they could say confidently that it was far lesser of a challenge than the test of the old human emperor. The three groups of people, spirit chefs, Yu Yin, and human emperor candidates, were all pondering where to start. Low-ranking cultivators can't practice fasting. The most common food they eat in the wild is the barbecue. Once I figure out a standard barbecue process, unify the barbecue taste, I will make the low-ranking cultivators satisfied. This was the most common thought. Barbecuing seems simple, but the variety of ingredients, heat, and seasoning can result in vastly different flavors. Chi Shaker felt this deeply. Yu Yin analyzed. In comparison to mortals, low-ranking cultivators have a relatively abundant supply of spirit stones. However, the spirit stones they can use aren't too many, so they can't use too expensive ingredients. I remember Zhongli mentioning something called compressed biscuit, the food which is small in volume but can fill the stomach. Perhaps I can imitate this compressed biscuit. But Zhongli didn't tell me how to make compressed biscuits. The literal understanding is to compress the food into a block as much as possible. This was easy for Yu Yin. How would Zhongli and Bai Hongtu do it? Yu Yin thought for a long time but couldn't come up with any ideas. Maybe they will play straight in the second round. At the end of her thought trail, even Yu Yin wasn't sure. Time's up. The competition's over. All contestants, place the food you've made in front of these cultivators, and they will judge how the food tastes. The hundreds of participants proudly presented their dishes, each believing they made the best one. Among them, half of the contestants chose barbecue. However, some people had put considerable effort into their barbecues. Chi Shaker loudly introduced his barbecue to attract the crowd. Everyone, look. As long as you follow our steps, with the time accurate to the second, the flame temperature accurate to the degree, and the seasoning accurate to the gram, you can make barbecued dishes that taste exactly the same. A cultivator tasted Chi Shaker's team's barbecued rabbit and found the taste mediocre, but it wasn't cloying after eating for a long time. Are we just eating barbecued rabbit? Of course not. Yuan Wuxing stepped forward to explain. Rabbits, wild chickens, wild boars can all be barbecued. If there's no meat available, certain leaves can be barbecued as well. Yuan Wuxing took out a small booklet. It lists all the types of animals and plants in the wild that can and cannot be eaten. We've added the steps for barbecuing each type of food to the booklet. The cultivators passed around and referred to the booklet and found that the content in Yuan Wuxing's booklet was practical and very useful. Yuan Wuxing's wilderness survival experience trumped both Qin Luan and Yuan Wuxing's combined. Fairy, what have you made? The cultivators looked at Yu Yushan's instant noodles, not sure how to eat them. These are noodles made from spirit grain which have been deep fried. They can be stored for a long period and taste great. These are dehydrated spirit grasses. Soak them in hot water, and they'll dissolve. The spiritual energy content and nutrients inside won't be lost too much. This is soup base I made from beef bone and pig fat. It also requires hot water to soak. Yu Yushan made some improvements based on the previous round and used more expensive ingredients. After she finished making the instant noodles, the cultivators tried and found them novel and delicious. Master was right, all the preparations were not in vain. Although there wasn't an opportunity in the first round, the chance arose in this round. Yu Yushan memorized Bai Hongtu's teachings. Bai Hongtu sincerely taught her only a few things, so Yu Yushan remembered all of his valuable instructions. Yu Yin's compressed biscuits were also pursued by many cultivators. Though they tasted mundane, they were hunger-satisfying. In the wilderness, the pursuit couldn't be too high, being able to be satiated was enough. Did they expect to increase their cultivation level by eating in the wild? That was impossible. The biggest problem with the compressed biscuits was its hardness. Many cultivators found the biscuits harder than spiritual treasures, and it would be better used as a weapon than food. Chi cultivators could never withstand the attack of this compressed biscuit. Only then did Yu Yin realize she had compressed too much food into one biscuit. She remade the compressed biscuits on the spot, using brute force to compress less food, turning the biscuit into something that could be bitten by teeth, thus gaining more cultivators' favor. Come and try our self-heating rice if you will. Luo Ying enthusiastically solicits the cultivators. At the beginning of the apocalypse, self-heating rice was an extremely popular commodity. Without the need for fire or electricity, people could have warm rice. Although the rice made this way may not taste as good as steamed, with zombies roaming around, no one cared that much. People only started eating compressed biscuits 1 to 2 years after the apocalypse. Luo Zhu, her younger sister, was not aware of the food changes during the apocalypse. In her timeline, the zombie crisis ended in just half a year. As you can see, even in the wild, you can still cook delicious stir-fry. Li Nianer laid out a set of outdoor cooking utensils. Low-ranking cultivators could afford storage rings, these cooking utensils were not too much of a burden. Li Nianer showed the cultivators how to cook in the wild, her options were much more diverse than what Chi Shaker prepared for the barbecuing demonstration. The most important thing is to make a clear distinction between what's crucial and what's not. Some things can be simplified because the wilderness is not the same as home cooking. For example, tomatoes do not need to be peeled, they can be directly chopped and fried. Li Nianer is always on the move, often going out to play. She enjoyed the view and cooked at any corner of the world. Chapter 493, Smashing the Place. Yu Feng used spells to create spirit beef jerky and spirit pork jerky, both of which attracted a substantial following. Ji Kongkong encouraged cultivators to venture this great wilderness as part of their trials. In this expansive Zhou nation, there was no lawless land. Even in the wild, there were vendors selling takeaway food, there was no need for cultivators themselves to cook. It was safe and healthy. The sect master of the spirit chef sect was calculating which team attracted the most cultivators. He thought he would have to carefully compare each team. In previous contests, the difference in the number of cultivators each team attracted was negligible. Until the last moment, the winner could not be certainly determined. But this time, it was clear. He noticed the team led by Feng Li attracted the most cultivators. Then he saw a scene which almost made him choke on anger. Zhang Li and Bai Hongtu were encouraging cultivators to consume fasting pill. Indeed, compared to cooking in the wild, cultivators preferred to consume fasting pill. One pill could keep a person full for 3 days. Moreover, after the spirit medicine sect modified the fasting pills, they became cheap and came in various flavors, from fruity to barbecue to stir-fry, it was all available. But the problem was this was the territory of the spirit cooking sect, not Alchemy Peak or the spirit medicine sect. These two were here to stir trouble. For a long time, their spirit chef sect's market share for food in the wilderness has been monopolized by the spirit medicine sect, all because of the fasting pill. Don't let the spirit medicine sect's act of poverty fool you. They may always complain about not being able to compete with Alchemy Peak, but they are actually immensely wealthy. The only thing is they are trying to compete with Alchemy Peak, which is why they seem less significant. The spirit medicine sect was much wealthier than the spirit cooking sect. Cultivators could opt out of the meals prepared by the spirit cooking sect, but they couldn't do without the pills refined by the spirit medicine sect. In cooking, taste is priority. In alchemy, the priority is how much it assists in cultivation. The master of the spirit chef sect thought he could use this competition to inspire an idea that would put the spirit chef sect ahead of the spirit medicine sect, but after all that, they found themselves back to square one. The cultivators' favorite still turned out to be the fasting pill. This is a culinary competition, not an alchemy contest. The spirit chef sect wished to call out Zhang Li and his companion for breaking the rules. We know, these aren't pills, they're food, Zhang Li said seriously, fully aware he was not breaking any rules. Look, this is steamed fasting pills, boiled fasting pills, braised fasting pills. Just like some use spirit herbs as ingredients, we also use pills as ingredients, these are also considered food after being processed. The master of the spirit chef sect who had lived for over 1,000 years was speechless, even with his great wisdom he had no rebuttal for this genius strategist who had managed to tie culinary art with alchemy. He was completely defeated. Zhang Li made his point so convincingly, the sect master of the spirit chef sect was at a loss for words. The master of spirit chef sect silently ate a piece of steamed fasting pill. Damn it, it's no different than the original fasting pill. The whole steamed and braised thing is just a gimmick. Whoever made the fasting pills must be highly skilled because the pill was perfect without any flaws, not a trace of taste could penetrate into the pill. Obviously, the pills were refined by Bai Hongtu. Zhongli could not mass-produce fasting pills in all these flavors. Unlike frivolous Grandmaster alchemist Zhongli, Bai Hongtu's level of alchemy, although not as good as Su Wei, was good enough to make him one of the top 10 alchemists. With the presence of alchemy peak, Bai Hongtu didn't need to practice alchemy, his only reason for learning was to have an extra reason to mock Zhongli. Trashy Zhongli, can't even refine a pill. He kept repeating this sentence in his mind, but never had the chance to say it out loud. Primarily, because he didn't dare. The sect master of the Spirit Chef sect and the elders discussed this and concluded that Zhongli and Bai Hongtu's actions were indeed compliant to the definition of a spirit chef. Hence, the sect master was forced to declare Zhongli victorious. There were 2 rounds in the competition and the winner should have been selected based on the scores. But, because the performances of Zhongli and Bai Hongtu were impressively superior, they pushed the other teams far behind, making these 2 non-cooks emerge as the ultimate winners. Zhongli and Bai Hongtu were not surprised by this outcome. Yu Yin finally understood how Zhongli had won and gained the title, Grand Master Alchemist, in the first place. Similar to this competition, he must have not used any alchemy skills at the alchemy conference. Zhongli didn't care about this empty honor. He graciously offered the trophy to Yu Yin. Yu Yin refused to accept it. He then offered it to Bai Hongtu, but Bai Hongtu wasn't as strong as Zhongli and failed to hold onto the trophy. So it was back in Zhongli's hand. Since no one wanted it, Zhongli reluctantly accepted the trophy. All the human emperor candidates gathered in their conscious spaces feeling down. The winner of this match was someone named Feng Li. The human emperor candidates were completely defeated. They were the cream of the crop of the youngest generation, how could they have lost so badly? Zhongli slowly stepped onto the stage. The human emperor. Mr. Zhang, Uncle Zhang, this competition didn't test your culinary skills. I know only a few of you have great culinary skills. Except for Li Nianer, everyone else hung their heads in shame. A genius named Feng Li won this round. It's not your fault, you don't have to blame yourselves anyway. The important thing is to learn from this competition, not where you placed. You should have all learned to think from others' perspectives after the first round. Tell me, what should you learn from the second round? Everyone hesitated for a bit before Qin Luan finally said, Mr. Zhang wanted to say that we should reduce the conflict between spirit chefs and alchemists, and get them to work together. Zhang Li shook his head. Luo Ying said, you mean that we need to think from the perspective of low-level cultivators? Zhang Li shook his head again. After a long discussion, Ji Kongkong finally said, Uncle Zhang meant that we should not compare with things that we are not good at. Instead of wasting away at the fields where spirit medicine sect has a natural advantage and spirit cooking sect has a weakness, we should focus our energy on other fields. Kongkong got it right. Each of you has your own advantages and strengths. Establish and magnify your strengths, and for your weaknesses, try to overcome and make up for them. But don't think that once you've overcome your weaknesses, you'll be able to compete with someone else's strengths. For instance, 7 Slayer Dao Child, your advantage is sword Dao swordsmanship, but you're not good at close combat. You should train your body, so when you're in close combat, you can at least defend yourself without losing badly. You don't need to spend too much effort on this. Don't suppose that after learning body cultivation for a while, you'll be able to go toe-to-toe with someone who has been cultivating their entire life. I am deeply grateful for your teaching, Human Emperor, said 7 Slayer Dao Child. Being singled out by Zhongli was not a point of distress, but joy. The other Human Emperor candidates began reflecting their strengths and weaknesses. Zhongli nodded. Training and combat skills can gradually be cultivated. Right now the most important thing is to shape these people's values while they are still young and let them understand what is right and what is wrong. By the way, Kongkong, how did you figure this out? Zhongli thought Ji Kongkong must have foreseen the future and found the answer using Tao of Time. Because I know Uncle Zhang does not practice Tao of Time and would never waste his time on it. Zhongli nodded. Indeed, as expected from someone from the Ji family. Chapter 494, Deduction in the Clouds. Considering Ji Kongkong's tender age, Zhongli attributed her words to the constant indoctrination of Ji. So, he held Ji accountable for this. Ji was the one who leaked my secret outing from Dao sect to Bai Hongtu. Old Bai still teases me about it. I had a little accounting session with Ji on the eve of the Spiritual Treasure Appreciation Conference, so let's call this square. Before every book related to the Path of Time, Ji wrote, Zhongli, give it up. You can't master the Path of Time. I haven't made him pay for that yet. Now even Ji Kongkong is being led astray by Ji. Another score to settle. It might make me, the human emperor, seem petty if I pick a quarrel with Gigi for every little thing. It might be better to wait until Gigi causes more trouble, and then I'll note it down, and combine these 3 grievances together to take care of it. That's a good idea. Zhongli stroked Ji Kongkong's little head with a grin, dismissing her and dissolving the consciousness space. After he left the conscious space, he saw that Bai Hongtu and Yu Yin were still there. What's up? Do you recall when we encountered a psychic manipulator in the world of Waigu, also known as Special Ability World? As soon as Bai Hongtu said this, Zhongli understood what he meant. I remember, that person was average in strength, not even close to the nascent soul stage, but the psychic special ability involved inner grounds development. Our initial plan was to develop a method to practice inner grounds development for cultivators ahead of time after we returned to Jojo. But I was transported back to 9,000 years ago by the leader of the special ability sect and forgot about it in the rush of things. Bai Hongtu showed a look of envy, wondering why he could never enter the river of time. It's about that. Now that the 3 of us, all cultivation prodigies, are together, why don't we research it together? Yu Yin nodded. I have no objections. Neither do I, said the Ruyi gourd, usually hanging around Yu Yin's waist. They all lowered their gaze to look at the Ruyi gourd. The gourd took the initiative to leave Yu Yin and flew back to the Tianyuan Emperor dynasty on its own. The 3 of them flew into the clouds, and Zhongli plucked a few pieces, molding them into tables, chairs, bench, tea sets, and paintings. Bai Hongtu set up a concealment formation that made them invisible and inaudible to passing cultivators. Yu Yin took out his favorite tea leaves and started making the tea with a flowing elegance. They were all using utensils made from clouds. The 3 of them took their seats and started chatting amongst the clouds, all of them appearing somewhat laid back. Zhongli casually constructed the internal structure of an inner ground, analyzing where further improvements could be made in the current inner ground cultivation method. The inner ground is the foundation of divine sense. If we could use divine sense ahead of time, it would improve the cultivation efficiency. This is an ordinary cultivator's inner ground. This is the psychic manipulator's inner ground. Yu Yin said, the psychic manipulator's inner ground is different from that of cultivators. It shifts a little, developing postnatal. Bai Hongtu said, the existence of psychic manipulators, to a certain extent, proves the correctness of the 5-element creation theory. This psychic manipulator should have changed the inner ground with psychic abilities, allowing the inner ground to be cultivated and use divine sense ahead of time. Will changing a certain structure of the inner ground lead to a forced growth, which is not beneficial for the later cultivation? Yu Yin expressed his worries. Let's speculate. Zhongli used a spell to assume that the psychic manipulator would cultivate and reach the transcendence tribulation stage or even the earth immortal stage, without any effects on the inner grounds. It seems that this method does work. However, changing the structure of the inner ground is easy for us but extremely difficult for low-level cultivators. Here's what I think. This psychic manipulator must have used the principles of the 5 elements creation theory and combined the 5 elements, which led to the alteration in the inner ground structure. We can imitate this. Most cultivators have 4 spiritual roots. How do we imitate that? Bai Hongtu scratched his chin and chuckled lightly. That's not an issue. They can use external items, such as collecting spirit plants and grasses of 5 different properties. Bai Hongtu pulled out 5 stalks of commonly found spirit grass from his storage ring. The 5 elements creation theory is not the same as the 5 elements spiritual root creation theory. They can all be substituted. Zhongli speculated and transformed these 5 stalks of spirit grass into numerical values, finding the measure ratio of the 5 properties and the method of use, proving the feasibility of Bai Hongtu's idea. This way, the threshold for cultivating inner ground could be lowered, from the nascent soul stage to the golden core stage or even lower, to the foundation establishment stage. Zhongli was surprised, as the result was unexpected. But the qi cultivation stage still won't work. The inner ground during the qi cultivation stage is not mature enough to withstand such a level of change. The name of the foundation establishment stage isn't wrong at all. It means laying the foundation and is the base for cultivation. Zhongli's rapid progress in the path of cultivation had strong connections with his awakening of the celestial spiritual root during the foundation establishment stage. The 3 of them went along, and they all began to speculate the 5 elements spirit plants and grasses commonly found in Jojo, controlling the prices to the range that low-level cultivators can afford, and developing several replacement methods. Job well done. Bai Hongtu clapped his hands together. After integrating the speculative results of the 3 of them, he listed a series of synthesis formulas. He was confident that even the poorest cultivator at the foundation establishment stage could use this cultivation method. Bai Hongtu turned to Zhang Li and said, the inner ground can be classified into several forms such as mist, droplets, streams, rivers, and oceans. The stronger the inner ground, the more advanced the form. Yu Yin and my inner grounds are like lakes, and if we could gain immortal power, or become immortals, our lakes will turn into oceans, making a huge leap in improvement. What is your inner ground like, Zhang Li? What Bai Hongtu was referring to was the inner ground during the Transcendence Tribulation stage. He had also seen Elder Immortal's inner ground, a vast inner ground ocean, where one would have to fly for a long time to find an end. Zhang Li showed a teasing smile, want to take a look? Unable to contain their curiosity, Bai Hongtu and Yu Yin's divine spirits left their bodies and entered Zhang Li's forehead. Glub, glub, as soon as Bai Hongtu entered Zhang Li's inner ground, a surge of seawater flooded his divine spirit. Yu Yin foresaw this and didn't end up as overwhelmed as Bai Hongtu. However, she was still shocked when she saw what Zhang Li's inner ground truly looked like. Even though an immortal's inner ground is vast, it's only a body of sea after all, and space is still left for flight above the sea. But Zhang Li's inner ground stretched out far and wide, filled with seawater from all four directions above and below, without a dry spot to set a foot on. No wonder Bai Hongtu's divine spirit was consumed as soon as he stepped in. Both of their divine spirits couldn't breathe in the inner ground ocean and were about to withdraw when the seawater disappeared, revealing Zhang Li's smiling figure. Where did the seawater go? What composes your inner ground? Bai Hongtu was puzzled. When I reached the Mahayana realm, my inner ground was indeed made up of seawater. As my cultivation continued, the volume of seawater increased until it filled up my entire inner ground. Then the seawater transformed into a solid, which eventually disappeared to become a malleable substance. These substances can transform into an ocean or disappear completely or turn into other forms, all at my thought's command. To prove his point, Zhang Li released a thought and his inner ground underwent earth-shattering changes. 6 continents appeared, each vastly larger than the mainland of Zhou. The 6 continents paired up to form a cube, while Zhang Li turned into the sun, illuminating each side of the cube. This completely impractical scene seemed very real under Zhang Li's transformations. It took a long time for Bai Hongtu to voice his feelings slowly. Holy cow! Chapter 495, Announcing the Cultivation Technique. After leaving Zhang Li's spiritual platform, Bai Hongtu quickly recovered from his stunned state. Wouldn't you say that this is a record-breaking discovery? We've managed to advance the cultivation process of the spiritual platform so much. Zhang Li shook his head, it's not our invention. The history of the immortal realm is long, and there are family clans among the immortals. I've heard an old immortal saying that immortal clans often have unique methods as the foundation of their clan. They keep these methods a secret, hence, there is an immortal guarding their family while they also have leading cultivation techniques for their peers. This is the reason for the immortality of the immortal homes. Among these unique methods, there are methods to advance the cultivation of the spiritual platform. That's really efficient. There's a reason Bai Hongtu said this, as the 3 of them plan to spread the method of spiritual platform cultivation all over the 9 provinces. I will announce this spiritual platform cultivation method on behalf of the 3 of us, said Zhang Li. You don't have to include my name. Yu Yin didn't wish to draw too much attention. Zhang Li and Bai Hongtu then persuaded Yu Yin, and she finally agreed to include her name. Seeing Yu Yin agree, Zhang Li continued, speaking of which, I have another idea. What? I want to establish sutra collection pavilions in various places and announce some common cultivation techniques. That's a good idea. Bai Hongtu and Yu Yin nodded in agreement. After all, Zhang Li had done similar things before. Now, apart from the spiritual energy map, there is also a very basic cultivation technique that can be practiced all the way from the foundation establishment stage to the body integration realm. This is a cultivation technique written by Zhang Li himself, seed technique. Any cultivator can practice this technique, there is no threshold. However, the biggest problem with this technique is that it has no uniqueness. For example, Zhang Li casually wrote a bunch of cultivation techniques, sold them to the system, and exchanged them for source points. These techniques might be mostly low quality, but each had its own features. Even the least useful technique could eat or sleep well. However, the seed technique is a problem as it can't do anything after cultivation. It is a very simple body integration realm technique. Its purpose is to provide an optional cultivation technique for those who have no other methods. In fact, this technique has another function. It allows people to understand the detailed cultivation process from the foundation establishment stage to the body integration realm as well as the characteristics of each realm. Because of the popularity of the seed technique, every cultivator in 9 provinces knows how to cultivate to the body integration realm. For example, at the very beginning, in the mysterious secret realm, a group of small cultivators would let their imaginations run wild in their dreams, imagining how powerful they could potentially become. They could even envision the specifics of the body integration realm. This can be credited to the teachings of teachers and the elders of transmission, who explained the seed technique in the beginner's cultivation course. Otherwise, no matter how rich their imaginations were, they wouldn't be able to envision what a cultivator in the body integration realm might look like. It's more accurate to say that the seed technique is a textbook than a cultivation technique. Therefore, one seed technique is far from enough. The seed technique can be used, but it's not the most suitable. The ways for cultivators to cultivate vary greatly, combined with various spiritual roots, different physiques, and different talents for cultivation, resulting in countless cultivation techniques. With the propagation of the seed technique, although the level of cultivators has generally not reached the body integration realm, they have learned the theoretical basics of cultivation to the body integration realm. My plan for the next step is to announce some common cultivation methods. Not all techniques are confidential. Some techniques are widely circulated among the major sects and dynastic regimes. These techniques are cultivated by outer sect disciples or relatives. All of these techniques have high standards and can be cultivated to the body integration realm. Zhongli plans to announce these techniques. If he can, Zhongli also wants to propagate the techniques that were sold to the system. However, considering that those techniques are of very little practical use, and even somewhat humorous, Zhongli gave up on this idea. The system doesn't discriminate. As long as the technique can be cultivated to the body integration realm, it buys it at the price of a technique for the body integration realm, completely disregarding the practical use of the technique. That's actually a good idea. The 3 of them have similar beliefs in this regard. They believe that the value of a technique lies in its propagation. There is no absolutely perfect technique in the world. Even if the techniques of the 3 of them are nearly perfect, they will continue to find faults in the technique and improve it as their experience and cultivation increase. The techniques that the 3 of them are practicing now are vastly different from the initial versions. Being able to recognize the deficiencies of a technique and modify it is because the 3 of them are talented. An ordinary cultivator would find this difficult. After their cultivation improves, they would only feel that the flow of spiritual energy is stagnant and wouldn't be able to recognize the problem with the technique. The more people there are practicing the same technique, the more likely they are to recognize the faults in the technique, or have enemies targeting the technique's faults and making countermeasures. In the process, the technique will be continuously improved. The spiritual energy map is a good example. Even though it was written by an immortal of the immortal realm, it still had many problems. As the spiritual energy map was propagated over the 9 provinces, it was continuously improved and perfected, finally becoming its current version. Even with Zhongli's critical eye, he couldn't find any error in the spiritual energy map. The viewpoints of the 3 are in minority. More factions prefer to cherish their techniques and are unwilling to share. I'll handle this. This way, if the other factions come protesting, they'll only come to me, they won't look for you guys, said Zhongli, the human emperor, taking responsibility. Bai Hongtu sneered, you're looking down on people when you say that. The Dao sect is the biggest power apart from the imperial palace, what are we afraid of? Unless they don't want the subsequent methods of spiritual treasure cultivation. Previously, despite Bai Hongtu providing techniques for spiritual treasure cultivation for free, this does not mean that the Dao sect is a charity. If someone dares to interject, Bai Hongtu will definitely not supply that faction with subsequent methods, and will prevent them from disclosing information to other factions. Yu Yin was also fearless. She had no reasons, she just wasn't afraid of trouble. As the only monarch in the 9 great dynasties who has reached the transcendence tribulation stage, she has the courage to be fearless. Just like drawing the map of the 9 provinces, what Zhongli is currently doing is also something that no previous human emperors have ever done. Before this, Zhongli didn't directly announce various techniques because he was worried that cultivators would be dazzled and confused by the array of techniques, only focusing on selecting the highest level ones but not the ones suited to them, thus, confusing the priority. Therefore, he first allowed the seed technique to propagate, so that the lower level cultivators would not go insane after seeing the body integration realm techniques. With the adaptation period over, it is now time to propagate the new techniques. Then it's settled. We will announce the spiritual platform cultivation method and the common techniques, with all of our names attached. Yu Yin got up, ready to leave. Zhongli was curious, where are you going? I'm going to visit the Confucian disciples. There's a Confucian technique called, as the word appears, so does the law. I want to combine this technique with my drawing technique to see if I can make a breakthrough. That's a good idea. Zhongli knew right away that this was not an idea that could be easily conceived. After Yu Yin left, Zhongli also planned to leave. The system has issued another task. The task reward is a main ingredient for refining the Sun Yang toxin pill, soul-severing water. Chapter 496, The Old Dragon King. New task. Your book, Journey to the West, has caught the attention of the dragon tribe of the Four Seas. The dragon sons believe you've demeaned the dragon tribe and hold resentment towards you, while the dragon daughters are impressed by your imaginative powers and have a fondness for you. Recently, on your travels to the East Sea, a dragon tribe lost their dragon ball. The tribe blames you for stealing it. In order to clear your name, you follow the breadcrumb trail, eventually discovering the real culprit and retrieving the dragon ball, cracking the case of the missing dragon ball. The East Sea Dragon King laughs heartily and invites you to the longevity celebration of the Elder Dragon King. At the celebration, there is a stark split in opinion towards you between the sons and daughters of dragons. The sons believe you come from an impoverished region and bring nothing of value to the table. Please outshine everyone at the longevity celebration of the Elder Dragon King by presenting a gift that surpasses those of dragon sons. You are advised against forsaking this task. Task reward: a dose of soul-splitting water, a set of dragon scale armor, and a set of the Sky Witch body. Zhongli furrows his brows and ponders upon receiving this task. Suddenly, he remembers a previous task from the system to write, Journey to the West, with the thoughtful hint that this task could be forsaken. Back then, Zhongli thanked the system for its thoughtful reminder and gladly abandoned it. According to the task description of the system, the book, Journey to the West, spread across the Jojo continent, creating a sensation that echoed from the land to the Four-Sea Dragon Palace. It would be known by every soul. Then, it would lead me to a chance encounter with a dragon maiden in the Dragon Palace. How comprehensive a revamp, not only elevating my cultivation level but also my talents. Zhongli goes along with the system's train of thought, astounded by how much he's overlooked. So, apparently, my alter ego, Zhong, has a dragon maiden as a Taoist partner. Just like how Zhongli has previously adapted classic stories such as Nezha Causes Havoc in the Sea, and Gourd Brothers, he did consider adapting Journey to the West into the JoJo. However, rapidly Zhongli encounters an insurmountable obstacle. He had never read the original work, he had only watched the TV series. Even at Mahayana realm, one can't imagine what has not been seen. So naturally, Zhongli decided to abandon the idea. And this, Dragon Ball missing case. 500 years ago, Zhongli went to the East Sea and did run into a real dragon that had lost a Dragon Ball, which caused a significant disturbance at the time. While people were leveraging their brain power to guess the identity of the thief in a messy way, Zhongli invited Gigi, who found the real culprit in an instant. I don't know how Zhong cracked the case. I haven't seen the Elder Dragon King for quite some time, it's time to pay him a visit. The Elder Dragon King is the father of the East Sea Dragon King, the predecessor of the East Sea Dragon King, and also one of the candidates for the Human Emperor. He was one of the last two candidates of his generation. He lost to the 52nd Human Emperor, an outstanding female cultivator, and had to return to the East Sea to take on the role of the East Sea Dragon King. When Zhongli was in the East Sea, he caught the attention of Elder Dragon King, who also helped him a lot. After Zhongli became the Human Emperor, he expressed his gratitude to the Elder Dragon King on several occasions. The Elder Dragon King kept a low profile and did not like to talk. Gradually, the Elder Dragon King became a legend, and people only mentioned him in casual conversations. Zhongli rides on the clouds to the East Sea. The East Sea was always bustling, but now it is even more so as it the 2800th birthday of the Elder Dragon King. Real dragons use spells to disperse the rain clouds, the sky clears up, water dragons play in the water, creating rainbows, and the shrimp soldiers and crab generals are well trained and orderly. Zhongli meets familiar faces. The master of Penglai Fairy Island, Mo Ruyu. Master Mo, we meet again. Zhongli greets her with a smile. A few young boys and girls follow Mo. They become excited upon seeing Zhongli, expressing their appreciation in waves of cheering. Did the Human Emperor also receive an invitation? Mo shows a look of surprise. As far as she knows, only the Four-Sea Dragon Palace and the Penglai Fairy Island were invited to the Elder Dragon King's birthday. The Elder Dragon King did not invite other forces. It seemed like he wanted to keep the birthday celebration small. It is consistent with the Elder Dragon King's traditional habits. Not at all, I just figured that the Elder Dragon King's birthday was coming up, so I stopped by. Even without the system, Zhongli would come anyway. You all should already be familiar with the East Sea Dragon Palace. Make your way to the spot reserved for us by the East Sea Dragon King. Momo sends away the young boys and girls with her. Although they wanted to spend more time with Zhongli, they had to obey Mo's words. They sighed in disappointment as they left. They walked backward, hoping to get a few more glimpses of Zhongli. I'm sorry for the fuss my disciples have caused. The audio novel, The Story of the Human Emperor, that you made, is their favorite. Mo, you know how much of The Story of Human Emperor is hyperbolized, and yet, you still let them listen to such wild fantasies. Zhongli sighed. Over 500 years ago, when he was injured, he stayed on Penglai Fairy Island for a while and shared his experiences with Mo Ruiyu. Mo Ruiyu understands what his real past was like. Mo Ruiyu covers her mouth and chuckles, because it's fun. You haven't changed, your mischievous spirit is as vivacious as before. Zhongli has been victim to Mo's pranks many times when he was young. When the previous human emperor heard about this, he even came to learn from her tricks. Unfortunately, the previous human emperor never mastered them. Fortunately, now that Zhongli is the human emperor, Mo Ruiyu respects his position and authority, never revealing the pranks of the past, nor continuing them. Lady Ao, niece Nianer. Zhongli notices that the real dragon dispersing the clouds nearby is Ao Chengcheng, Li Er's wife, the princess of the West Sea Dragon Palace. Human Emperor. Ao Chengcheng turns into a human form and comes over with her daughter. Uncle Zhong. Li Nianer did not expect to see Zhongli again shortly after leaving the consciousness space. Sister Chengcheng, niece Nianer. Mo Ruiyu knows Ao Chengcheng and they get along quite well. Li Er isn't here. He said he was in the Transcendence Tribulation stage and that it would be inappropriate for him to come here. Ao Chengcheng explains. Li Nianer doesn't quite understand her father's point of view. Zhongli nods, understanding Li Er's unspoken message. Guests are to halt. Please present your invitation to human emperor. The dutiful shrimp soldiers and crab generals stand guard at the entrance of the Dragon Palace. After that, they're tripped up by their own words. Report to the Dragon King, we've got great news. A distinguished guest is visiting. The shrimp soldiers and crab generals excitedly report to the East Sea Dragon King. The East Sea Dragon King is currently entertaining guests. Seeing this, he lowers his voice and whispers in exasperation to the shrimp soldiers and crab generals, I already told you, when Master Mo arrives, you're to secretly inform me. Now that you've announced it loudly, what if the other 3 Dragon Kings hear about it? It's not Master Mo, it's the human emperor. What? The human emperor is here. The East Sea Dragon King's voice suddenly escalated by several levels, loud enough for half of the attendees of the banquet to hear. What are you waiting for? Go and greet him. The East Sea Dragon King apologizes to the guests and then leaves to greet Zhongli personally. You didn't need to come out and greet me, I'm here. Zhongli laughs loudly, his face more effective than any invitation. Where is Elder Dragon King? Take me to see him. My father is unwell and needs rest. He will attend the longevity banquet. Please understand. I understand, I understand. Chapter 497, The 5 Declines of Man and Nature. Zhongli often changed his surname and appearance for a reason, his presence was enough to make people disregard everything else. Looking at these people's expressions, Zhongli wanted to remind them that this was the Dragon King's birthday banquet, not his. Is Grandpa Dragon's health not good? Then quickly contact Uncle Su Wei from Alchemy Peak. Li Nianer believed there was no pill that Su Wei couldn't create, no disease he couldn't cure. The East Sea Dragon King simply shook his head, offering no explanation. What birthday gifts have you prepared? The dragon clans gathered in groups, eager to know each other's gifts before the birthday celebration. 12 luminous pearls, each with a radius of 2 inches. One of the dragon princes slightly opened the gift box, revealing a faint green glow. Such a large luminous pearl, given a little refinement, could be turned into a decent spiritual treasure or decoration. It was something the prince had painstakingly located in his territory. Mine might not be as impressive as yours, just a reverse scale left by a true dragon. Another dragon prince claimed his gift was less impressive, but his heart was actually leaping in excitement. A true dragon's reverse scale was much more valuable compared to the luminous pearl. See my longevity peaches, eat one, and you can extend your life by 20 years. None of your gifts are heartfelt. At the once-in-a-decade birthday banquet, there are always these kinds of things. The dragon princess sneered, then what do you want to give to Grandpa Dragon? Show us. It's a clear fragrance pill, personally crafted in the Red Crow furnace. When carried on one's person, it emits a faint fragrance that suppresses all odors. What's the use of this? The dragon princes were dismissive, they wouldn't even want this useless pill even if given for free. This you probably don't know, I paid a hefty sum to a maid of Grandpa Dragon to get a tip. Apparently Grandpa Dragon has recently taken a liking to these fragrant curiosities. In terms of value, the luminous pearl and reverse scale are definitely more valuable than my clear fragrance pill with pill markings, but what's the use of that if it doesn't cater to his preference? It's all in vain. This prince wasn't worried that they would change their gifts. Although the fragrant items weren't valuable, they were rare. They wouldn't possibly be able to find some on a whim. Are you sure about this information? I heard that Grandpa Dragon has been switching his maids recently. The old maids always mysteriously disappear and new maids are constantly being recruited. Could it be that your maid is newly recruited and doesn't know Grandpa Dragon's preferences, and merely made up something to swindle you? That's impossible. This prince felt guilty because after the maid gave him the information, she quickly became unreachable, and a new maid replaced her. Maids disappearing. Li Nianer frowned. It's Sister Nianer. All the princes were polite to Li Nianer. As the daughter of a true dragon and a unique woman in the Transcendence Tribulation stage, she was more precious than all of them combined. In front of Li Nianer, they didn't dare to brag about their gift, because whatever the daughter of the Transcendence Tribulation stage presented as a birthday gift would undoubtedly be much more valuable than theirs. What's the matter with the maids disappearing? Can you explain in detail? Li Nianer sensed a big problem. Well, the princes looked at each other. We were just casually mentioning it, don't take it seriously. Recently, rumors have been spreading from somewhere, saying that Grandpa Dragon's lifespan is nearing its end, and in order to break through the Transcendence Tribulation stage, he was bewitched by the demonic path, and has killed a lot of maids. To cover up this news, the East Sea Dragon King announced that the maids were missing. But how could all the maids go missing? Several batches of maids have gone missing. That's impossible, Grandpa Dragon isn't that kind of dragon. Li Nianer shook her head hard, refusing to believe their words. Grandpa Dragon was a very kind dragon, he couldn't do such a thing. That's why we said it's a rumor, don't take it seriously. But the disappearance of the maids is true. Li Nianer felt that this matter was not simple, and there might be a huge secret hidden behind it. She didn't investigate it alone, but ran directly to Zhong Li and told him what she had heard. Ao Chengcheng and Mo Ruyu were also listening on the side. So, what do you think is the connection between the old Dragon King and the disappearance of the maids? Zhong Li asked with a smile. I don't know. Li Nianer's tears welled up in her eyes, anxiety gripping her. Deep within, she felt that the rumor might be true, that the dragon grandfather had been practicing dark arts. But emotionally, she refused to believe it. Those at the body integration realm could live up to 2,000 years, the dragons were no exception. Lifespan extension pills and other longevity resources could further extend this life expectancy by 800 years. The aging Dragon King was indeed nearing the end of his lifespan. That was why Li objected to attending the longevity feast. The lifespan of those at the Transcendence Tribulation stage would make the old Dragon King green with envy. Human Emperor, my father requests your presence, the East Sea Dragon King respectfully invited Zhong Li. Good, Nianer, you come too. Meet your dragon grandfather. Zhong Li led Li Nianer, Ao Chengcheng, and Mo Ruyu to the old Dragon King's sleeping chamber. The chamber was in stark contrast to the outside world, it was deathly quiet, without the slightest sound. The moment Li Nianer stepped into the chamber, she was hit with a powerful stench. The fragrance itself was pleasant, but the mix of different aromas resulted in a bizarre, off-putting scent. And the source of this aroma was the old Dragon King himself. The aging Dragon King appeared wilted, surrounded by various spices. The king's body was slick with sweat. Maids bustled about wiping his skin clean, but barely a moment passed before new beads of sweat would emerge. This was certainly not the normal condition for those at the body integration realm. Li Nianer was about to say something when Zhong Li signaled her to stay silent. Old Dragon King, how have you been feeling lately? Zhong Li cheerily sat by the bed and began making small talk with the king. Not too bad, just a little weak and some mood swings. Probably because I haven't been getting enough rest. Then you should rest more, it will surely get better. Your concern is appreciated, Human Emperor. Speaking of which, you used to be at the Transcendence Tribulation stage, could you share how to break through? That might be difficult. The method to break through the Transcendence Tribulation stage is understood, not told. Nevertheless, why not contemplate on it yourself? Zhong Li brushed off in laughter. I can't figure it out. Think harder. I really can't figure it out, can you just tell me? I'm afraid I can't. The old Dragon King looked old and haggard. Wrinkles had spread across his face. He seemed to frown in dissatisfaction at Yang's straightforward refusal, or perhaps he simply wanted Zhongli to leave. In that case, I kindly ask you to leave, human emperor. Despite being dismissed, Zhongli didn't seem bothered nor showed any signs of leaving. He remained serious and asked, Old Dragon King, do you know you are dying? Ao Chengcheng and Mo Ruiyu widened their eyes, shocked at Zhongli's blunt words. Be it them, the East Sea Dragon King, or Li Nianer, all of them, being at the body integration realm, knew that the ancient Dragon King was nearing the end of his lifespan. He was covered in filthy sweat, emitting stench, and abruptly changing their attitudes. These were signs of impending death. The old Dragon King refused to admit his impending death. He used these spices to mask his stench, ordered the maids to wipe his sweat, and prevented any information about his condition from reaching others. Any maid who leaked information would be banished by the East Sea Dragon King to hidden residences, cut from the outside world, only to be released after the ancient Dragon King had passed. The old Dragon King's refusal to admit his condition led to a silent consensus among the others. They acted as if everything was normal, even held a normal longevity feast. Who would have thought that Zhongli would shatter this illusion? For a many beats, the chamber fell silent. Chapter 498. Defend the bottom line. The human emperor sure knows how to jest. I, old dragon, just need a good rest and a good sleep. Death is still a long way off. The old Dragon King laughed heartily, struggling to rise as if to prove his vitality. The old Dragon King sat on the edge of the bed, his whiskers trembling, his body swaying like a pendulum, seeming like he might return to bed at any moment. I can still live for 200 years, 2,000 years. A foul odor emitted from the old Dragon King's mouth, so pungent that even various kinds of incense could not cover it. As the old Dragon King's emotions fluctuated, his body began to sweat increasingly. The maids took turns wiping it away, but they couldn't keep up. Get out of my sight. The old Dragon King, deeming the maids useless, exploded in anger. An appalling aura emanated from him, threatening to fling the maids through the air. Zhongli's face showed pity. He stepped forward and gently held down the old Dragon King's wrist. These maids could not withstand a casual hit from the old Dragon King. Zhongli waved his hand, instructing the maids to leave. The current old Dragon King was very dangerous. If this continued, the maids would not just disappear, but truly die. Old Dragon King, if you want to live, you must face the reality that your life is nearing its end. I told you, I can still live a long time. The old Dragon King was afraid of death and firmly denied reality. Zhongli sighed softly, leading Li Nianer, Ao Chengcheng, and Mo Ruiyu away. I will await you at the birthday banquet. Before parting, Zhongli left only these words, leaving the vast palace with the old Dragon King alone. The path back to the banquet was silent. Li Nianer lightly bit her lip, feeling that the previous scene had subverted her cognition. She murmured quietly, Grandpa Dragon was not originally like this. Zhongli nodded. 500 years ago, when I traveled the East Sea, I met the old Dragon King. He was then a low-key man, generous in giving and loved to help others. He treated people kindly, didn't judge heroes by their cultivation levels, and didn't discriminate against humans. His attitude towards me was the same as towards his own sons and daughters. However, his current state doesn't surprise me. Li Nianer was puzzled. Zhongli turned his head to look at Li Nianer and continued, who can truly face life and death? Knowing that the end is near, it is only natural for one's mindset to change. Especially for those who have lived a long time. The longer they live, the more they fear death. They have enjoyed the prosperity of the world and its wonders, so they want to prolong their lives and continue to enjoy life. In this process, their hearts may become distorted and deformed. This is the discontent with one's position in the 5 decays of heaven and man. Regardless, the old Dragon King has preserved the bottom line of being a creature. He is a senior who deserves respect. With the old Dragon King's lifespan of 2,800 years, it's sure that he knows how to practice demonic cultivation. Regardless of whether the demonic cultivation could help him break through the transcendence tribulation stage, he never chose to try. This is quite rare. Zhongli had seen too many cultivators who were nearing their end and made monstrous choices. Li Nianer nodded thoughtfully, feeling that Uncle Zhong was talking about the old Dragon King's matters but also seemed to be teaching her something. The old Dragon King rested his head against the bedstead, his eyes dull. Of course, he knew he was dying. He knew his body better than anyone else. But he didn't want to believe it, nor did he dare to. He knew he would die one day, but he hadn't expected it to come so quickly. It seemed like just yesterday when he was competing for the 52nd Human Emperor's position, only to be defeated by the brilliant girl. The old Dragon King instinctively stroked his beard. After a few strokes, he lowered his head to look at his white beard, no longer the vigorous dragon clan's pride of his imagination but an old dragon emitting a foul odor. 2,000 years Qing Luo, have I been losing to you for so long? The name of the 52nd Human Emperor was Qing Luo. The old Dragon King often found himself lost in illusions, returning to the era when a dozen candidates competed for the Human Emperor's position. He defeated other candidates over and over again, but he could not escape his destined fate and lost to Qing Luo. Even so, the old Dragon King liked to indulge in these illusions, enjoying the reunions with old friends, reveling in the joyous times of crying and laughing with friends. More than 2,600 years had passed. All his old friends had disappeared in the long river of time. Even Qing Luo, the only one who managed to break through the Transcendence Tribulation stage, had fallen under the claws of the extraterritorial heavenly demon. Only he was left. More than 2,600 years have passed. Even the old Buddha has passed away on the top of Mount Sumeru. The only one who witnessed my growth must be Commander Liu. All my old friends could not stand the test of time and turned into dust. What more could I ask for? It's laughable that I, at this age, am not willing to face reality, making myself a laughingstock in the eyes of the younger generation. It's about time, I should attend the birthday banquet. Leaning on his walking stick, the old Dragon King shuffled towards the birthday banquet. As soon as the old Dragon King appeared, the lively banquet instantly quieted down. The smell from the old Dragon King was so repellent that no incense could mask it, and everyone could see that the old Dragon King was not in a good condition. The 5 decays of heaven and man. All the sea races had the same thought. They realized the old Dragon King was about to die. Today might be his birthday, but also the day of mourning. For the sea races, the old Dragon King was indispensable. They had all benefited from the old Dragon King's blessing in one way or another. Seeing him in such a state, they knew the old Dragon King was truly at his end. The sea races instinctively looked at Zhongli, hoping that this mighty human emperor would find a way. But they saw him looking composed, undisturbed, with no intention of intervening. All these changes happened within a few breaths. After those few breaths, the sea races carried on with the feast, toasting and celebrating the old Dragon King's 2800th birthday as if they did not smell anything unpleasant. The atmosphere got more joyous than before. They hoped the old Dragon King would leave with a smile. The East Sea Dragon King recited his well-rehearsed birthday wishes, enlivening the atmosphere. Then it was time for the gift-giving ceremony. The East Sea Dragon clan offers Grandpa Dragon a set of bronze lotus lamps as a birthday gift. Wishing Grandpa Dragon blessings as boundless as the 4 seas. The Eastern Sea Dragon clan offers Grandpa Dragon 12 luminous pearls as a birthday gift. Wishing Grandpa Dragon eternal clarity. The Golden Clam clan offers Grandpa Dragon 3 drops of essence of moonlight as a birthday gift. Wishing Grandpa Dragon a blissful heavenly life. The Mermaid clan offers Grandpa Dragon a box of premium mermaid's tears as a birthday gift. Wishing Grandpa Dragon endless happiness. The Body Incorporating sect offers Grandpa Dragon a set of real dragon body incorporating practice methods as a birthday gift. Wishing Grandpa Dragon eternal longevity. The old Dragon King could barely keep his eyes open. After taking his place at the banquet, he had kept his eyes closed, half asleep, half awake. Upon hearing Li Nianer's clear and vibrant voice, he forced his eyes open slightly, a bit of greed showing in his gaze. Youth, vitality, such beautiful words. I remember you, the children of Shower and Chungchung's family come, let Grandpa Dragon take a good look. The old Dragon King wanted to beckon, but sadly he didn't have the extra strength. He could only bend his fingers a few times, serving as a gesture to beckon. Chapter 499, The Calamity of Exhausted Lifespan. Ao Chungchung noticed that the old Dragon King was not in a good state and wanted to stop her daughter from approaching. Zhang Li gestured to Ao Chungchung, signaling her not to rush. Thinking of Li Er's frequent praises of Zhang Li's, better than an earth immortal, descriptions, Ao Chungchung calmed down. Even if something unexpected happened, Zhang Li would be able to intervene and stop it. Dragon Grandfather. Li Nianer politely sat next to the old Dragon King, her manner reserved, showing no disgust for the old Dragon King's foul aura, not even wrinkling her brow. Seeing that his father had lost interest in the gift-giving segment, the East Sea Dragon King started the next segment, a dancing performance. The sea clans continued to eat, drink, and enjoy the dance. Can the old Dragon King be saved? Mo Ruiyu asked Zhongli softly. This was a question that concerned everyone. It depends on his fate, it's hard for outsiders to help in such a matter. The Transcendence Tribulation stage is a hurdle that anyone can't help with. If Zhongli had a way to help others reach the Transcendence Tribulation stage directly, there would be more people at the Transcendence Tribulation stage than there are statues of the human emperor. We didn't get a chance to say this when we met earlier, but you've grown up so fast. I heard you are a candidate for the human emperor. Well done, well done. The old Dragon King spread his mouth, issuing a silent laugh. Seeing you reminds me of Qing Luo back then. You two are so similar, having the same talent and similar characteristics. But, you're definitely not as strong as Qing Luo. The old Dragon King accepted his defeat to Qing Luo, which made him miss his chance to become the 52nd human emperor. He knew that Qing Luo was stronger than him and better suited to be the human emperor. Qing Luo's excellence made the old Dragon King jealous. Originally, the old Dragon King didn't have such a personality. He was quite mischievous in his youth, being the liveliest among all the candidates for the human emperor, creating a stark contrast to the gentle and quiet Qing Luo. However, as he had more interactions with Qing Luo, the old Dragon King gradually became aware of his deficiencies and tried to get as close as possible to Qing Luo by imitating her. Qing Luo's death in battle left the old Dragon King grief-stricken, further intensifying his desire to mimic her. He hoped that by imitating Qing Luo, people would remember that there was once a female human emperor named Qing Luo. Thus, he continued his imitation for more than 2,000 years. Grandfather Dragon, how are you feeling? This was a question Zhongli had instructed her to ask. What do I feel? The old Dragon King muttered to himself. At this moment, he was not feeling much, even his consciousness was fading away. I'm jealous of you, jealous of your youth, vitality, and your potential to become the human emperor. Old Dragon King ran a hand over Li Nianer's head. Being around the young, the old Dragon King felt his time passing more slowly. Why are you so young, with a promising future ahead of you, while I am on the edge of death? I'm scared of death, truly scared. Sometimes I thought about doing bad things to extend my life, but I feared that if I died and went to the underworld, I wouldn't be able to face Qing Luo. At this point, the old Dragon King's jealousy started to fade, vanishing. Qing Luo often said that jealousy makes people ugly, especially me with a big dragon's head. If I were envious of others, I would be the ugliest dragon under heaven. I now understand, this world belongs to you, and I'm just an out-of-date old man. The old Dragon King stood up, like a towering mountain range on the verge of collapse. I have lived for 2,800 years, what more could I yearn for, what more could dissatisfy me? Qing Luo is in the underworld, all my old friends have passed on to the underworld. I'm just weaker than Qing Luo, but I'm stronger than the rest of the human emperor candidates. They weren't afraid of death, so why should I be? The old Dragon King's breathings began to fade, but his eyes grew increasingly bright. Rather than waiting for death to arrive in a few hours, it's better to go meet it now, saving the trouble. The old Dragon King looked at the prospect of life and chose to face death. The unification of the heart and the mind, the individual and the path, the body and form, these three unities makes the body integration realm. When a person at the body integration realm gives up on life, their body starts to disintegrate, and their spiritual energy leaves the body, returning to the world. The old Dragon King was now in such a state. As the old Dragon King's body started to disintegrate, his mind became clearer than ever. Cultivation techniques he didn't understand in the past now made sense, the principles he didn't grasp were clear, and faces forgotten with age were all remembered again. Qing Luo, you look like this is the true essence of the Transcendence Tribulation stage. At this moment, the old Dragon King understands everything. To achieve the Transcendence Tribulation stage, one must pass through the death tribulation. The greatest death tribulation in this world is none other than the tribulation of exhaustion of lifespan. This tribulation of lifespan exhaustion is a death tribulation everyone will face, yet it's also a tribulation everyone will overlook. The old Dragon King raised his arms towards the sky. His scattered flesh, his lost spiritual energy all returned to the old Dragon King's body. No wonder the human emperor said that facing death head-on is the only way to live. If I don't dare to face death directly, it means I passively accept the tribulation of lifespan exhaustion, and I will never have the chance to reach the Transcendence Tribulation stage. Although Zhongli seemed to have just said a few indifferent words, they became the key to changing the old Dragon King's fate. Tribute, tribute, heavenly tribulation, come! The old Dragon King roared as if commanding the heavenly tribulation. Boom! The heavenly tribulation responded, arriving promptly. A blue pillar of thunder struck from the sky into the sea, causing waves to surge on the surface of the East Sea and whirlpools formed at the bottom of the East Sea. The heavenly tribulation, like a metal rod, disrupted the order of the East Sea. The old Dragon King basked under the heavenly tribulation, looking like he was enjoying himself, and even had the energy to protect Lineaner. The old Dragon King's body was gradually perfecting, and his former weaknesses had become flawless. The old Dragon King broke through the death tribulation and officially entered the transcendence tribulation stage. So that's how it is, so that's how it is, so that's how it is. The old Dragon King repeated himself 3 times, feeling enlightened. This was Lineaner's first time seeing someone progress from the body integration realm to the transcendence tribulation stage, and at such close proximity. This was indeed her great fortune. Congratulations to Grandfather Dragon on becoming a transcendence tribulation stage practitioner, with a lifespan extended to 10,000 years. Congratulations to Grandfather Dragon on becoming a transcendence tribulation stage practitioner, with a lifespan extended to 10,000 years. Congratulations to Grandfather Dragon on becoming a transcendence tribulation stage practitioner, with a lifespan extended to 10,000 years. The Sea clans couldn't believe the scene before them. They were originally intending to cheer up a funeral, wishing the Dragon Grandfather all the best. They certainly didn't expect that the old Dragon King would break through at the last moment. They looked back at Zhongli's calm face, believing even more that the human emperor was indeed profound and unpredictable. Everything was under his control. Thank you, Human Emperor, for your help. With my advance into the Transcendence Tribulation stage, my power has surpassed Zhong Konggu. I've cultivated the Zhongli's Human Emperor Vigor technique to mid-completion. Come, let's have a go. The old Dragon King initiated a wrist wrestling posture, celebrating his rebirth. Zhongli, who was enjoying the special fruits of the East Sea, stepped forward, and in an instant, upturned the old Dragon King. The old Dragon King fell along with his chair. Ha ha ha, that was exhilarating. The old Dragon King didn't feel disgraced to be defeated in front of all the Sea clans. Here, this is my gift to you. Zhongli handed the old Dragon King a book. The Transcendence Tribulation Stage Cultivator's Insights. The old Human Emperor flipped a few pages and saw that the ink was still fresh. When did the Human Emperor write this book? While you were recalling Qingluo with Lineaner. Chapter 500, Hong. When Zhongli left, old Dragon King felt humiliated and dared not to watch him go. Was this kid so annoying when he was young? Seems like he was. Congratulations, host, for completing the task. Would you like to settle the rewards? Settle. A set of dragon scale armor. The dragon scale armor is soft and flexible, its irregular shape can absorb up to 40% of attacks, which could be considered top-tier equipment for the divinity transformation stage. If I could have obtained this armor back then, though, perhaps it wouldn't have made any difference. I was already invincible at my tier, no one in the divinity transformation stage could defeat me. The system's rewards were now so useless that even Zhongli from 500 years ago wouldn't have needed them. One set of heavenly shaman body. As I suspected, it's not a duplicate. This is the body cultivation technique of the shaman clan, an ancestral treasure that is never shared. Zhong Konggu practiced this technique. The shaman clan is known for their invincible bodies, their fame spreading across the 9 provinces. Much of this is due to the heavenly shaman body. Once the heavenly shaman body is fully cultivated, 12 ancestral shamans appear behind the cultivator, creating a terrifying scene. Zhong Konggu is a perfect example of someone who has mastered the heavenly shaman body. 150 years ago, Zhong Konggu asked for my help in modifying this cultivation technique. The original creator of this technique was truly a genius. It was almost perfect when it was first created. After my modification, I was only able to enhance Zhong Konggu's physical strength by 25%. 1 unit of soul-severing water. Finally, to you, the alchemical ingredient that doesn't exist in the 9 provinces. Zhongli took the precious soul-severing water to Su Wei. This is the soul-severing water recorded in the ancient books. Su Wei, why don't you taste this and see if it's real? Zhongli was stopped by the Red Crow Furnace at the entrance of Alchemy Peak. Taste this, my ass. Hearing this, Su Wei swiftly arrived and kicked the Red Crow Furnace over. The young disciple who used to fan the flames has grown into a beautiful young woman, famous throughout the Tao sect. She has become both the closed-door disciple of Su Wei and the Red Crow Furnace. Both Su Wei and the Red Crow Furnace intended to groom her as their successor. She lowered her head, feeling that her master Su Wei's temper has been growing more volatile recently. The human emperor wants me to refine the Sun Yang plague poison pill. Easy, leave it to me. I guarantee that whoever takes this pill will surely die and can't be any more dead. Su Wei sneered, very confident in his alchemy skills. Anyone who could take another breath after taking his pills would only be a blasphemy to his alchemy skills. Perhaps it doesn't need to be that effective. Zhongli felt that Su Wei was a little too enthusiastic. Give me half a day. Just half a day. Zhongli was about to say something when he raised his eyebrows. Someone was summoning him. Ladies and gentlemen, please hear me out. The current state of chaos and warfare has arisen entirely due to the plots of the heavenly demon from other realms. If we continue this way, it will only lead the world of Brahma here to destruction. In a certain space, dozens of illusions stood quietly to the side, eager to hear what this supposed cultivator from the 9 provinces world had to say. The world of Brahma here was a world that Mount Heshan had visited. This world was filled with planets, each having its unique civilization. Distances between planets were calculated in light years, and they knew nothing of each other until recent times. Later, one civilization managed a major technological breakthrough in space travel, enabling sub-light speed travel. This planet's civilization was warm and hospitable, eager to discover if there were other civilizations in the universe. They dispatched several fleets, one of which, after decades of exploration, was about to discover another civilization when it suddenly lost contact with its home planet, making them suspicious. They were worried about what to do if the civilizations they discovered were malicious. If that civilization was more advanced, it would likely annihilate them. If its technological level was similar to theirs, their few hundred warships would not be an adequate defense. If that civilization was technologically inferior, they might quickly copy and surpass their technology within a short time. The only option was to strike first, asserting control of the situation. This planet's civilization launched the first attack, only to discover that the other side was not weak, just hadn't developed sub-light speed technology. However, their weaponry was terrifyingly powerful. Due to the sudden attack, millions of civilians on the other side were killed. Enraged, their ruling class destroyed the few hundred warships of the attack force and quickly copied the sub-light speed travel technology, launching their counterattack for revenge. Ironically, the other fleets that this civilization had dispatched also lost contact and then became suspicious, attacking other unknown civilizations, only to be counterattacked. The other civilizations learned from sub-light speed technology and sought revenge. For a time, the first civilization to figure out the sub-light speed travel technology became the common target, subjected to assaults from several others. This civilization too felt wronged. They assumed their fleet's loss of contact was due to these civilizations playing tricks, and yet, they were being accused of being the aggressor. Such logic was beyond comprehension. Counterattack. This civilization and the surrounding star systems became the battleground, with endless warfare. During the conflict, several more planets in the midst of their third technological revolution rapidly advanced. When they first made contact with the outside world, they found that the most advanced civilizations were in a state of chaos. Thus, they concluded that these advanced civilizations were extremely barbaric, harboring ambitions to assimilate other civilizations. The relationships between civilizations were far from harmonious. To protect themselves, they focused on developing weapon technology, and themselves joined in the war. Dozens of civilizations were involved in the conflict. At this level of chaos, the initial cause of the conflict no longer mattered. When Mount Heshan first visited the world of Brahma here, he noticed the complex relationships between the planets and felt that he needed the Heavenly Machine Tower and Tian Sha Pavilion, both adept at gathering information, to understand the dynamics. Hence, the master and disciples from the Heavenly Machine Tower and the original pavilion master of the Tian Sha Pavilion were invited over. They each used their strengths to explore the ancient histories of the planets, deduced the cause behind the current situation, and gradually discovered the root of the problem. There was a man named Hong. He took on 1,000,000 forms, as a scientist leading the original civilization to achieve sub-light speed travel technology. He took the form of a spaceship captain, cut off contact with the home civilization, and ordered the attack on unknown civilizations. He took the form of intelligence agency officials from various civilizations, providing false intelligence, guiding these civilizations to eye each other with suspicion. Hong had taken on too many forms, so many that even Destiny Taoist had lost count. This person named Hong was definitely a great cultivator. Destiny Taoist stepped forward, revealing his identity, expressing the greatest goodwill, hoping to stop the fighting. All the civilizations were on their last leg, continuing this way would only lead the world to destruction. There's a world beyond this world. You come from the 9 provinces world. Seeing Destiny Taoist's actions, the various civilizations lowered their guard, feeling that it wouldn't hurt to have a talk. Just as they were about to respond in kind, the confidants of the rulers, after a series of analyses, suggested that the 9 provinces world might have questionable intent and they should always remain vigilant. Found you. Mount Hashan, attack. Destiny Taoist sneered. Hong's multiple personas had been idle for the past few decades and Destiny Taoist could not find any clues to his whereabouts. He decided to reveal his identity and draw the snake from the pit, hoping to provoke Hong's alter ego to show himself again. With the immortal artifact, Mount Hashan, at his disposal, Destiny Taoist was not worried about any major trouble that the other party could cause.